Hello everybody, welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode we're going to be going over what happened at 320, UFC 320. Poatan, guys, we all saw it. Even if you missed the night, you woke up the next day and you saw the highlights all over the place. Poatan Alexander Pereira scores a major win over Ankalev. A 1-2 pop right off the bat. He starts the fight right away. I told you guys, I picked Pereira this time around. The first fight, I picked Ankalev. I got a storm of comments, people hating. People were so upset with me. People were like, how could you pick against Pereira? Ankalev is going to get steamrolled. And Ankalev wins. This time around, I was like, wait a second. I'm telling you, Pereira saw that fight. He was so unhappy about how much he backed up in the fight. He's going to go forward in this fight. They're going to clash. Ankalev wasn't able to take him down in the first fight, which kind of surprised me. I thought he would be able to get him down here and there. Poatan comes out, pop, 1-2, right off the bat, throws a violent 2 punches, backs Ankalev off. Ankalev is orbiting around it. He's just circling. He's trying to break alignment with Pereira. Pereira won't have it. Pereira presses him after a couple of leg kicks and then just catches him with a big overhand right. This time it wasn't the big left hook. Usually we see Pereira with the doom. Hits people with the doom. The left hook. Boom. That left hook is doom for any man. But not this time. This time it was overhand right. Pow! Drops him down. Gets on top of him. Some hammer fist. Some 12 to 6 elbows, which is legal now. He was doing them to the ribs, then to the head. And the referee stops it. Thankfully so, because Ankalev was not going to be able to defend himself. That was a very good stoppage. Nobody was debating the stoppage. The stoppage was right on the money. Now, I will tell you something. I don't know if there's going to be a rematch. I doubt it. Okay, it was so one-sided this time. I know the first fight, it went Ankalev's way. It's going to be 1-1. I don't think it's going to be a rematch. I don't know why. I just don't think people are super excited for a rematch. Who is going to be the rematch? Well, it can't be Jiri. Jiri's already lost. He's lost twice to Pereira. He can't be Jiri. And Jiri had a phenomenal. I'm going to talk about Jiri versus Roundtree. It was such an incredible fight as well. But it can't be Jiri. Who could it be? I'm thinking Chimaev. Chimaev is for sure already calling out Pereira. He wants to jump up. And let me tell you something. If that fight happens, which I have a feeling it's not going to happen, I think there's going to be a lot of push for Pereira Chimaev. There's going to be a huge push for Pereira Chimaev, but of course the UFC wants to keep Pereira as champion. He's a big seller. He's a crowd pleaser. But also the rich Arabs in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they're going to be like, "Hey man, let's do a super fight here in the Middle East between Chimaev and Pereira." And of course that's something they're going to be pushing for. They're going to be really wanting that really badly. Now, I would tell you right now, if Pereira fights Chimaev, in my opinion, Chimaev wins quite in a quite dominant fashion and with a finish. I think it would be a dominant win for Chimaev. That's just my opinion here, telling you guys straight up. Still, the fight with Ankalev and Pereira was very exciting. Even though it was super short, it's just Pereira fought like he wasn't going to take a single step back. Okay, like he was super aggressive, super determined. And we saw him what he does best. Do what he does best. Does he do best? He's a finisher. He's a knockout puncher. Guys, don't forget to use promo code FALL50OFF for anything, 50% off on jujiclub.com. Jujiclub.com, guys. Don't forget, we have striking videos, jiu-jitsu videos, wrestling videos. Check it out. It's the best content for the best price. You won't find a better price anywhere else. Okay, so what was another great fight? Well, we saw Jiri and Roundtree. Okay, I want to touch up on Jiri and Roundtree before I go to the comments and questions. Jiri and Roundtree, I just rewatched it. It was incredible. It was an incredible fight. Roundtree had control of the entire fight for 11 minutes. 11 minutes. Okay, so look, there was about 2 minutes left when the fight was finished. Okay, so take 2 minutes off the clock. You have a 13-minute fight. For 11 of those minutes, Khalil Roundtree was in charge. He won the first 2 rounds. He was very dominant. He was very slick. You could even hear Khalil's strikes land. He was hitting so hard. He was hitting so often and so hard. When he would hit Jiri, you would hear the sounds. Crack, 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 crack. Body kick, punches, everything. He was just connecting, and Jiri just couldn't find his shots. Now, Jiri with his hands down. We all know he has his hands down, and Usually he's zigzagging, and this time he was getting caught. He was getting caught. Body kick, leg kick. A lot of punches too, a lot of check hooks. What happens? Round 3 comes about. Okay, Khalil's winning round 1. Round 2 is even better for Khalil. Round 3 comes about, and for the first minute, Khalil's looking great. Pop, pop. He's cracking shots. He's hitting hard. It seems like we're going to have another 5 minutes of Roundtree dominating. No. What happens with Jiri? Jiri, guys, don't forget, is one of the best finishers ever. The guy, I can't remember last time. I know he had a hard fight, in his title fight, but he still got the finish, even though it was the last minute. He's a finisher. And let me tell you something. Jiri didn't disappoint, man. He didn't disappoint. In 2 minutes, he did more damage than what Khalil did in 11 minutes. Khalil had incredible control and was very dominant for 11 minutes. He was doing great. And then in just 2 minutes, it happened so fast. Jiri, I gotta say, can do so much damage in such little time. It's a very special style that he has. He's a great finisher, and he can do it really on the turn of a dime. It was quite impressive. Okay, guys, with that said, I'm going to talk about the other fights as well, but let's do comments and questions now because I've rambled on for a little bit here. Coach, do you still think Khamzat could beat Alex at 205? Absolutely. Ahmatan, yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, I'm taking questions on the fight. You guys are getting crazy on all sorts of stuff here. Let's talk about Jiri versus Roundtree. Let's talk about Pereira versus Ankalaev. Those were 2 crazy, exciting fights. There were more fights on the card we could discuss as well, but I want to discuss those 2 fights now. Let's not get crazy with other topics. He's also a black belt. Do you think it's legitimate? That's from Saiga. I don't know. I've never rolled with a guy. I haven't seen him in the practice room, but it would surprise me if he's legitimately like a black belt. It would surprise me because he comes from a kickboxing background, and he hasn't been doing MMA that long. Okay, now I know he did MMA before his kickboxing background, but I was a very low level, and you see his fight, like he was still very early in his career. Okay, now the guy's a great talent. He worked really hard, and he's a phenomenal kickboxer, and he converted to MMA, and he's doing fantastic, obviously, but still doesn't make him a legit black belt. No, that I'm saying that without seeing him. I just don't think it could happen that fast usually, especially when he had a lot of striking fights, right? The UFC gave him a lot of stylistically good fights for him, except for one where he was fighting like a really good grappler wrestler where he got taken down in the first round, but the other guy was also limited in the striking, right? So it was more striker versus grappler, and Poatan got through that fight. Well, in an incredible fashion. Second round, he did a scissor knee and knocked the guy out. Is that hoodie from your college days? JB19. Yeah, this is my Vanier. I went to college. I graduated from Vanier as well. I graduated from Vanier College and from Concordia. So, no, this shirt, I had to go back to Vanier I had to go see a physio once, and I was in Vanier College. I was at Vanier College, and I was like, I got to get a sweater from the old school. Salam, Coach. Do you think Alex has a chance at heavyweight? That's from Ahmad Jassim. Not against a top tier talent. If you're talking about like an Aspinall, I don't think so. I think Aspinall would play it smart on the feet and take him down. It would be way too much. The heavyweights are just too big, in my opinion, and it's very risky. I think he would have a very hard time. Okay, guys, I'm not talking about anything else other than the fights, guys. Let's focus on the fights here for a few minutes. I promise we won't go too long, and then I'll let you guys, get crazy. Thoughts on Merab's fight, guys? Okay, let's do Merab's fight. I can't believe I went to the Jiri Khalil Roundtree fight before doing Merab's fight. What was I thinking? What's wrong with me? My apologies, guys. The co-main event was Merab versus Sandhagen. What an incredible fight. Sandhagen had a very good first round. Sandhagen was cooking in round 1, but then Merab just took over. Round 2, you almost got to finish it. You heard? Sandhagen. And then round 3, round 4, round 5, I gave all the other rounds to Merab, even though they were more competitive than in round 2, because round 2 was one-sided. Round 2 was, Merab's probably biggest chance at finishing. And Sanhagen came back strong, and he came back, he threw those flying knees. He did a lot of nice attacks. They just weren't connecting the way he wanted to. He landed a good back kick on Merab. Everybody's questioning his gut. Does he have the gut? If somebody hits him to the body, how's he going to react? He hit a full back kick by Sanhagen, and he survived it well. And it was just more Merab just pressing the fight. It was just so much action on Merab's side, picking him up, taking him down, letting him up, getting back. Well, Sanhagen did a good job getting back to his feet, defending. It's just the pace. The pace of Merab was just, it's inhuman. I don't know how to explain it. I've been in this game a long time. I can't explain it. I think Corey fought incredibly well. It's just that Merab was just, I don't know, man. He's just head and shoulders above the division right now. And we have to figure him out. The world has to figure him out because he's a very, very dominant champion. No doubt in my mind, he's the greatest bantamweight ever. That's no doubt in my mind. And I would tell you, Sanhagen had a very good first round. It was close. If I was going to give him a round, it would be round 1. Okay, and I know you can argue it both ways. I'm not here to do. I'm not interested in doing that. But Merab picked it up. He picked it up and pushed the pace like he always does. And I got to tell you guys something. I found it mind-blowing. It was incredible. After beating Ankalev, Pereira does move up to fight Aspinall at White House card. Likely lose but make tens of millions and then retire a legend or chase Shamaev and prove he's still hungry. That's from Yahya. Is that an official? Let me see. I heard the White House card came out. The White House UFC card. Let's see if it's out. Let's see. Let me take a real quick here. White House Trump main event. Event will be June 14th. What is the White House White House card? Is it official? Let's see here. Is it official? That came out. No. This is not it. No. It doesn't seem to be official. Well, the date is official, but not the fight. I'm referring to the fight. Okay, I don't see anything about that fight. But look, if you're telling me they're going to offer him that fight, I assume he would take it against Aspinall because it's the White House card. And you're right, he's going to make a ton of money. But Aspinall could ruin his career. You got to think about the man's health. Aspinall is going to be very dangerous. So maybe he gets taken on and gets subbed, walks away with 10, 15, 20 million. I don't know what it is because it's a White House card and it's a historic moment. Maybe Poatan's ready to put his legacy on the line like that, but it's going to be a bad fight for him if he fights Aspinall. Pereira probably beats Curtis Blades. That's from Spectonimus. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. It will be a tough fight. Maybe. It's possible, but I don't think so. Umar is the only one who has the ability to beat him. That's from Learn MMA. Well, Umar did really well. I thought Umar had the first 2 rounds, and the third one was quite close. Even though I gave it to Merab, it was close. It was very competitive. It was absolutely very competitive. Coach, thoughts on Yusuf Zalah's fight? He had a good thing to say about you in an interview with Ariel Helwani. That's from Mahab. Mahab, I gotta tell you, I thought he fought incredibly. Okay, so Yusuf's fight was incredible. I want to touch upon that. Look, he fought Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett is one of the heaviest hitters, one of the most scariest guys. You've seen the knockouts he's produced. He's put guys out cold. And Zalal handled him beautifully. Masterful takedown, got on top of him. Really great ground game, really great top pressure. But Emmett's a good athlete. He kind of scrambled to his knees, and Zalal kind of transitioned to armbar, was kind of slipping off, and then transitioned to armbar. I'm not sure if he was slipping off or if he did it on purpose because he wanted to get that arm. But he went into a full armbar, beautiful armbar, and I didn't see the tap. I don't think a lot of people saw the tap because it was a verbal tap, and you can't really hear it in the octagon, right? There's no mics in the octagon. But I think it was a verbal tap because both his arms were connected. So a lot of people didn't know what happened because I don't think the ref didn't even separate them. So Emmett verbally taps, or maybe there was a physical tap that Zalal felt. Maybe there's like a little, he was trying to protect his arm. So maybe sometimes you give like this little tap, but he was also verbally tapping for sure. On the replay, you could see it and then you can hear it. And Zalal let him go. And I don't think anybody in the audience realized that the guy tapped, because sometimes you get a visual tap. Sometimes the referee is like really close. He sees the armbar and he sees the tap and he hears the audible tap and he'll separate it. But Zalal let him go. And then it was kind of like, what happened? What happened? No, but he hit an armbar. Emmett stepped over. It wasn't as visually evident as usual, but it was a beautifully applied submission. Fantastic work by Yusuf Zalal. Okay, guys, what else we got here on these fights? All right, we got Shiz in the house again. My boy Shiz. Bro, Khamzat uncrowned 170-pound champ, current 185-pound champ, and when he beats Alex, he's going to be triple champ. Unbelievable. Coach, is Khamzat the greatest title belt winner in history of UFC? My best guess is yes. Well, if he ever holds 3 titles, if that ever does happen, then yes. Okay, but he'd have to fight the winner of Madalena and Islam Makhachev, which I think is going to be very difficult for him to make 170. That would be a harder fight than I think going up to fight Pereira. I know a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy, but I think if he puts Pereira on his back, which he will, he's going to have an easier time on top of Pereira than he would on, let's say, Islam Makhachev. A JDM, he could be a little bit more difficult, I think, but Pereira, I think, is a perfect fight. A perfect fight for Khamzat. Why? JDM is going to be a tougher fight because JDM is a really good boxer now. Pereira is a good boxer, but he's more of a one-shot kill type guy, and he throws a lot of leg kicks. So that's going to be a gift to Khamzat Chimaev. Go ahead, kick his leg. I dare you to extend your leg. If you kick his leg, he's going to dive on your leg. He's going to take you down. Like, it's just such a... Stylistically, I think Khamzat's going to really put it on Pereira more easily than he would maybe a JDM. Okay, because JDM... he's more hand-heavy. He's more obviously using more his boxing, but also he's scrappier on the ground. He has his ways of getting back to his feet, where I think Pereira is just going to get steamrolled if he gets stuck underneath Chimaev, which I think it's inevitable. All right, guys, let's open it up now to any of the fights. Anything at all on the fights. Look, the main event was short and sweet. It was an explosive fight, but there's not much to break down. So let's move on to the other fights. Okay. Merab is cardio king. That's from Hashmi. Hashmi, I couldn't agree with you more. Nobody knows how he does it. Nobody. I don't think even his coaches knows how he does it. Do I think Umar can beat Merab in a rematch? That's from MDA fan. Yes, it's very possible. It is very, very possible. Their first fight was close, guys. Come on. I think that's the... It all comes down to round 3 because Merab won 4 and 5. Umar won 1 and 2. 3, I think everybody gave it to... Most people gave it to Merab, but still it was a very close round. So I put it to a very close fight. A few different decisions by Umar. Maybe he takes round 3. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It was a close fight. It came down to one round, which was contested. It was close contention. But Merab kind of like stole the show a little bit. Alex Pereira, too much legs for Khamzat. Easy fight, coach. That's from Tanvir. I hate to say the word easy, but stylistically, it works for Khamzat. Because you're right. He's too much leg. He attacks the legs too much. He relies too much on his legs. And it's like feeding Khamzat double legs, basically. Singles and doubles. Okay. Rodolfo Vieira versus Bo Nickel. What's your take? That's from Brandon. That's an interesting one. Really interesting. I'd have to go through their footage, but just saying that, I think Bo Nickel might be the more powerful puncher, the more powerful striker. He's very explosive. I wonder how he's going to do if the fight develops and goes into the later rounds. Then I like Vieira a little more. He seems to be a lot more gritty these days, but still, I still think Bo Nickel's going to have the control on the feet. Can Merab win the Tour de France? That's from Brandon. Brandon, that's a brilliant question. I would love to see him. Now, obviously, he couldn't win. He's not trained in Tour de France, but I would love to see how he does. I'm sure he would do quite spectacularly. And, of course, if he dedicated his life to Tour de France and started training in Tour de France and all that, that could be really interesting. But, you know, he'd have to spend it's not an easy thing to do, Tour de France. Obviously, he would have to dedicate his life to that. But just for fun, if you ever did something like super endurance, like a Tour de France, I would love to see for fun, you know, how he measures up. Assalamu alaikum, coach. What do you got, Bilal or Ian Gary? That's from the man from Nepal. The man from Nepal. I'm good friends with Bilal, so I got to say Bilal. I have no choice in the matter. I'm friends with Nepal, so my bias, I'm going to let you guys know right away. Don't ask me about guys that I train with or know very well. So that's one of the guys. So I will tell you for sure I'm picking Bilal. Coach, can Armin Sakurian beat Gordon Ryan at BJJ? That's from Tanvir. No, of course not. That's ridiculous. Absolutely not. No, he's much bigger, much stronger, more experienced in BJJ. So no, he wouldn't be able to beat Gordon in BJJ. Who from UFC you think can match BJJ of Gordon Ryan? That's from Tanvir. Nobody. There's nobody in the MMA world that can match Gordon Ryan's jiu-jitsu. Guys, I've trained with Gordon Ryan many times, many years. And I've trained with many UFC fighters. And I can tell you that nobody in the UFC world... Okay, you want to talk about of all time in UFC? Okay, Roger Gracie. Roger Gracie would be a guy who could rival Gordon Ryan. But I'm talking about like the roster today. Nobody. Literally nobody could match his jiu-jitsu. Umar is Merab's kryptonite. First fight was a reality check, but with that experience, he'll finish Merab on the feet after seeing Merab versus Sanhagen. That's from Yahya Mandani. Yahya, what I got to say, I got to tell you that I agree with you that I think Umar is going to be harder to beat the second time around. I think it's digging at him that he didn't win. I think he might have maybe underestimated Merab a little bit, and this time around he's going to be more ready, more prepared. Actually, I heard Umar is fighting Batista. Let me see that. Umar. I want to see what the date is. Umar, topology here. I heard he's fighting Mario Batista. Yeah, that's right. They're fighting October 25th. So that's coming around really soon. That's going to be a very interesting fight. Okay, that's the Aspinall Gain fight. Okay, so really interesting. So that's a very interesting fight because Mario Batista is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a very tough challenge. Okay, guys, forgive me. I got to put somebody out here. Somebody's saying they tried to unalive somebody. I got to put you in the timeout. Please don't write stuff like that, okay? At least write. I tried to delete somebody, you know? Use like, you know the algorithm, how it works. You guys know. You guys are internet people, you know. Coach, do you think Greg Jones' help makes a big difference for the Aussie fighters? That's from NBA fan. Of course he does. Absolutely. He's a master of the ground game. He knows what's up on the ground. So he can help them, you know, get to where they want to be in the fight. If they want to be on top and pinning, or if they want to get out from underneath, if they want to look for a certain sub in a certain scenario. Let's say, you know, the guy shoots in on you. How are you going to grab him? Here are your options. Of course, having an expert grappler with you is a major plus. YouTuber Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu made a video grappling people in irregular clothes. He says gi training is better for self-defense. What do you think? That's from Sammy. I don't think so, because when you put punches involved, I feel like it goes more towards no gi. Okay, because also clothes are flimsy, right? Let's say we're fighting and you're kind of like putting on my sweater. It's not going to be like a gi. It's going to kind of slip and slide. And if you're talking about self-defense, I would say no, because punches are more... If you're grabbing onto my gi and I'm punching you, it's better you do MMA and no gi. And like, I don't know if they were using punches or not, you know, but That's the thing. Like when you're street fighting and you're gonna grab a guy's shirt, he's gonna pull back to punch you. The shirt's gonna rip, unless he's wearing. It could be he's wearing a heavy coat, even a heavy sweater. I can't see it really working well. All right, guys. What else we got here? Alex is the hardest hitter in the UFC ever? Question mark. What's the science behind his one punch knockout power? That's from Shawn Michaels. Who is the greatest? Guys, I want to see you guys put in who is the greatest KO puncher of all time? I would say pound for pound, I would have to say Topuria. More so than Pereira. Now, if you asked me a year and a half ago, 2 years, I would have said Pereira over Topuria, but not anymore. I would put Topuria now over Pereira. And I'm not talking about pound for pound. Pound for pound, I put Topuria for sure above Alexander Pereira. So Ilia Topuria, pound for pound, in my opinion, there's no doubt. But also in punching power. In punching power, I think Topuria is even harder. Pound for pound, talking, of course, they're not the same weight class. We put those two men in the same weight class. Obviously, Pereira is way too big, way too strong. I'm talking about pound for pound. If they were the same size, theoretically speaking, I think Topuria has the edge. To answer your question, what makes that powerful punch? I will tell you guys something, okay? And we've done this, talked about many times. Training helps, but you have a genetic potential. So genetics and training, okay? But genetics gives you that KO power. And of course, training accentuates it. But guys, I hate to tell you this. I know it's such a controversial topic, and we've talked about it many times. That's why I'm trying to get around it here without avoiding the question. I've asked all the top trainers around the world. Nobody knows how to make a Mike Tyson, Pereira, or Topuria overnight. No, even Topuria said it once in his interviews, like, my gift is God-given. And they're like, why do you say that? Well, he says, I work really hard, and I've seen others work really hard. And they can't do what I do, but they're working really hard. So he says it's a God-given gift. And he says he realized from very early on he had power in his hands. Like he was boxing early on, very green boxer. He realized, hey, I have a lot of power, more than these other guys that are my training as long as me or longer than me. And he's outdoing them with power. Okay, so when we have a power puncher in the room, we discover it quite quickly. It's not like, oh, the guy was an average Joe and then he became like a guy with a touch of death, No, it doesn't work like that. The guy had good potential. We trained him and then he got to the touch of death, but barely, or, But there's some guys that walk in like, wow, this guy has so much power, okay? And he's never thrown he's not a trained puncher. And then we see that potential in the guy. And it has a lot to do with, according to Michael Kogan, of course, he's a PhD in exercise science. And he says, look, it has a lot to do with how your tendons are attached to the bone. Okay, so he goes into type of muscle, type of tendon, position of tendons, etc. There's a lot of research behind it, but it's genetic. You can't do nothing about it. Okay, there's no exercise that's going to change where your tendons are. Now, of course, exercise makes your tendons stronger. Of course. Do we have ample evidence of this? So training will make you stronger, but that genetic one touch of death, if you have that, it's a God-given gift. Do you think Gaethje can give Topuria problems? That's from he can give him problems, but ultimately speaking, I think everybody, I'm not even going to poll, okay? Because I think we're all going to pick Topuria on that one, okay? I love Gaethje. He can pull it off. It's going to be a tough one. I would say it's like 70-30 in Topuria's favor. 70-30. Why? Because Topuria can outstrike him, take him down, sub him. Okay, he could sub. Topuria could also finish him with a sub. I have no doubt if Topuria gets on top of him. And he could. If he wants to get on top of Gaethje. I think he gets on top of Gaethje. And he can ground and pound a finish, or he can sub him. And I highly think very highly of Topuria's ground game. I know we haven't seen much of it, but I've seen him train, and this guy, his ground and his wrestling is legit. Okay, so he's very, very well versed in jiu-jitsu, wrestling, submission, all that. Okay, Guys, don't forget to use promo code FALL50 off when you go to jujiclub.com. Buy anything you want, 50% off. Use the promo code FALL50 off. Francis Ngannou is by far the most powerful fighter ever. No one in any division has slept opponents the way he did. Pure unmatched knockout power. That's from Yahya. Yahya, I agree, but imagine Topuria was a heavyweight. Oh, I would pick him over Ngannou. Because don't forget, all heavyweights score knockouts statistically. Okay, the division with the most knockouts is heavyweight. Why? Because they generate more power because of their size. Don't forget, F equals MA. Force equals mass times acceleration. Mass times acceleration. Well, they got a lot more mass. Right? They got a lot more of it. The more you move that mass, the more power you got. And guess what? They got the most mass and they can accelerate. Not as often, but they can accelerate as fast as a small person, but not as often. But when they do accelerate, kapow, the human jaw cannot take it. So if Topuria was walking around at 260, I think he'd beat Ngannou. NBA fam says, so you cannot develop KO power? Question mark. That's not what I said. I said you have a potential. Who knows your potential, what it is? So training will for sure make you hit harder. That's no doubt. But are you going to hit the heights of a Pereira, of a Topuria? Most likely, statistically, no. Okay. But can you knock somebody out? Yeah, you don't have to hit like Topuria to knock somebody out, guys. Come on. You got to be a hard hitter, a good boxer, a smart boxer, can accumulate punches, or even you can have the power to knock somebody out. But then go knock out a guy like a Max Holloway who has a granite chin, who has like 30, 40 fights and he's never been knocked out. Well, that guy has a very special chin. So you need somebody with an extra level, a super level of KO power to knock out one of those guys. Okay, so why am I saying Topuria knocks people out? His knockout power is so incredible. Well, he knocked out two guys with granite chins. Alexander Volkanovski and, well, actually he's pretty much finished almost every single guy he's ever fought except Josh Emmett, and who else was it? I think he has 2 fights in UFC he didn't finish. Regardless, he's pretty much knocking out everybody. All the who's who. Because don't forget, guys, when you go to UFC, that's the 1% of MMA fighters in the world. The top, cream of the crop, best of the best. Top, best guys. They have something special. A lot of them have good chins, etc., etc. And this guy's flattening them out because that's what's so special about him. Now, if you're fighting a regular Joe on the street and you're training on a regular basis, well, guess what? You're probably going to put his lights out quite quickly. Okay, so don't forget, I'm putting it in the perspective of the elite of the elite. Who's got the most elite? We're talking about like UFC's like the Olympics here. Coach, I disagree because heavyweights can absorb more, but Francis somehow is nuking guys. That's from Saul. Saul, I don't agree with you. And I'll tell you why, okay? Because statistically speaking, the most KOs happen in heavyweight. Think about it, okay? Think about this. You go to Thailand, you watch fights in Thailand. They weigh 110, 115, 117, 120, 125. Like, they're smaller guys, okay? The Thais are smaller guys. And you watch fights, you rarely see a knockout. Then you go to K1. Go to K1. Remember K1 in Japan? It was happening it was like heavyweight kickboxing. 3 rounds of 3 minutes. Like 85% of the fights were KOs. So just because we went to heavy, because you're saying, oh, they hit more, but they can absorb more. No, not true. The human jaw seems to have a limit. There's something called absolute strength and relative strength. You're confusing the two. So I'm not going to get into an explanation on what that is exactly because it's going to be long and boring. Just suffice it to say that statistically speaking, the heavyweights knock each other out more often. Look at K1, like 80. Actually, I think the stat was like 90% of the fights go to KO. 3 rounds of 3 minutes. Where in Thailand, it's 5 rounds. It's 5 rounds of 3 minutes. 5 rounds and they still can't knock each other out. Guys, statistically speaking, the lighter weight class in UFC has the least amount of KOs. And as you go up every weight class, there's more and more KOs, and most KOs happen in round 1. So I'm telling you, you're statistically wrong. Heavyweights knock each other more out because F equals MA. Force equals mass times acceleration. All right, guys, ease up on the super chats because I just got bombarded here. I'm trying to improve in Muay Thai. Do you have any tips for me? Also, which of your courses should I prioritize for this? That's from Jihad. Jihad, I will tell you, get a man's guide to throwing a punch. and get professional shadow boxing. Okay, those two are really, really good videos. I'm coming out with a whole series of striking. It's going to be more kickboxing, Muay Thai, stuff like that. Okay, because don't forget, my style is kickboxing mixed with Muay Thai mixed with boxing, mixed with karate. Okay, don't forget, I'm also a karate black belt, so I do a lot of back kicking, oblique kick. I do stuff like that. Okay, so I add that into the program. I'm developing a program now just for this. But for now, I would tell you, get those two videos: A Man's Guide to Throwing a Punch and Professional Shadowboxing Volume 1. In your videos about determinism, you seem to make the cause of our actions genetics, environment, etc. God, the cause of all effects, make more sense. God, the cause of all effects makes more sense? Question mark. That's from Kalam. Kalam, I've talked about this so many times. I've answered this so many times, and I would tell you, look up something called pre-established harmony. Okay, it's going to help understand, because there's something called compatibilism. Okay, that yes, we have deterministic, we are determined, meaning we can't decide. Things are predetermined. So whatever I'm going to do in an hour from now, that was predetermined. Okay. And we also, at the same time, have free will. Both are true and they're compatible. Okay. That's the term we use for when somebody believes that the two are true. And it sounds like a contradiction. Okay. That's what Hegel will call an apparent contradiction. But there is personal realities, models of realities where the two can be coherent. Okay. So one of them is occasionalism, and the other one is pre-established harmony. And I prescribe more to pre-established harmony, even though I respect, and I also think occasionalism can be true. Okay, so look up occasionalism, the Asharite thinking. And then Leibniz's thinking, who came and he commented on the Muslim thinkers, Ashari thinkers, who harmonized determinism. Okay, so look, you got to understand something, okay? The Greeks were not huge on determinism. They observed it. Don't forget, the Greeks are older than the Muslim thinkers, okay? The Islamic thinkers. The Greeks thought, look, the world is determined, man. The world is like a clock. It's working, and there's nothing we can do about it. And then when the Muslims came around, they're like, look, well, the Quran says we have free will. So they're like, where could both be true? So they came up with occasionalism. And then Leibniz thought about it, and he's like, look, occasionalism makes a lot of sense, but here's something that makes even more sense. And he described pre-established harmony, which I think is more congruent with the Quran, with what we observe. And Leibniz was right. Pre-established harmony is it's a great attribution to God. It's kind of complicated how he explained it, but he basically said, look, if occasionalism is true, God is great. But if pre-established harmony is true, he's even greater. So that's why he defaulted to pre-established harmony. Now, I know it seems like I'm presupposing God exists, and that's not, the argument here is not to prove God. Okay, so they have already talked about if they believe in God. Two people who believe in God are discussing free will and determinism. Okay, because the thing is, here's the thing, okay? If free will exists, atheism can't be true. Can't be true. Okay? And I'm not going to get into why, okay? I'm just going to make that assertion right now. We can get into why maybe in the future if somebody asks me that question. But it can't be true. So they said, okay, look, if determinism is true, then we are determined to know we're determined. It's kind of like I know it's a bit complicated, but look, think about this. If everything I say and do is determined, then I'm talking about determinism right now. So I had to be determined to talk about determinism. Think about that, okay? So if I know about determinism, that means somebody programmed me to know about determinism. So who would do such a thing? I know it's quite crazy. Do you like the Zalal fight? Question mark. He made light work of Josh Emmett. Who do you want to see Taporia fight next? That's from James. James, I love the Zalal fight. I thought he was brilliant. He took him down kind of like GSP style. One arm around the waist, one arm around the knee. It's a beautiful type of double leg. He took him down beautifully, controlled him on top beautifully, then transitioned to armbar. It was fantastic. I just think the crowd didn't give him credit because they didn't see the tap. And the tap kind of happened quick without the referee intervening. So it was just like Zalal letting him go. And then, the fight was over. And nobody saw the ending because Emmett stepped over the armbar. So you couldn't really see the arm extended. And the referee didn't react. Thankfully, Zalal let him go because Zalal could have just been like, hey, I'm not going to stop fighting till you rip me off it, because that's what they tell you in the back of the room. They said, when you're fighting, don't stop fighting until I pull you off or I break it up or until I engage. But he could have, he would have crushed Emmett's arm. So it was the right thing to do to let go. And Emmett respected the fact that he had tapped and verbally signaled. You could hear him on the replay. But it was just such a quick, fast armbar. And the fact that Emmett stepped over it kind of hid what was going on underneath. But it was a beautiful finish. Coach, salam again. You are a gentleman and a scholar. TriStar Gym in Toronto is opening soon. Do you have a date for the opening? And do they teach your style of Muay Thai and boxing mix? That's from Hashmi. Hashmi, we don't have an official date yet, but yes, I'm very excited for TriStar Gym opening up in Toronto. And yes, we'll be teaching my style of striking. Of course, it's going to be headed by Mandal Nalo, who's my longtime student and just signed to UFC as well. When Toronto TriStar Gym opens up officially, guys, I will be announcing it here, so don't worry about it. But it is now operating, but just invite only, and then in the future, it will be open up to the entire public. And I'll be making an appearance, guys. I'll be heading down to Toronto. I'll be teaching seminars there once in a while and getting to know everybody in Toronto. Coach, you answered my question up top. Could you answer some shiz, my boy, shiz? Let's see here. Number 1. Oh, here we go. Let's not forget who former champ Kamaru almost got. Let's not forget when former champ Kamaru almost got choked. Shiz is very correct. Always reminding us of Khamzat's win over. Oh, here we go. This is the one I miss. Coach, which fighter would have beaten my bro Khamzat in 170? Gilbert tried, no success. He's my 170-pound uncrowned champ, 15-0, undefeated, undisputed, coming for everyone. I'm taking over Dana White. No one can stop me. That's from Shiz. Shiz is very true. I will tell you that I don't think anybody's stopping Khamzat Chimaev at 185. 170, I don't know if he ever makes the weight there again. I don't know if he can fight hard for 5 rounds. I think 170, we saw him get a little tired. I don't want to rehash all that, but he didn't look as dominant as he looked at 185. 185, he looked like his right weight class for him. He's a big, strong, imposing guy. He had missed weight, of course. Maybe 170, I don't know. I don't want to speak for the man, but maybe it's a very difficult weight for him to make. I think his dominant future is at 185 and, of course, possibly 205 if he gets the Pereira fight. Guys, I'm not a gambling man, but if I had to bet everything on on a fight ever, and I'm not a gambling man, I don't condone it. I don't think you should. But let's just say I'm very confident for Chimaev if he gets the Pereira fight. And again, guys, anything can happen in a fight. Anything can happen. Pereira is a lion. He's a tiger. I could see him maybe getting back to his feet or the round ending, not getting subbed. I could see it, but not so much. To me, it would be like a 70-30 fight in the favor of Khamzat. Like, he could slip out of a sub. He could survive the round and then come back to score a big knockout win on Chimaev, but I just don't see it. I think 7 out of 10 times Chimaev gets him to the ground and eventually subs him, just punishes him with submissions. Salam, coach. I had my second kickboxing fight of the weekend. On the weekend, I completely zoned out and fought like it was a street fight, not using any actual taught skills. Any tips on how to address this? That's from Muhammad Hassan. Muhammad, it's not abnormal, okay? It's very normal. Once the fight starts, your adrenaline, your nerves, you just fight and your emotions take over, okay? Now, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite quotes of all time. Amateurs do it till they can get it right. And professionals do it till they can't get it wrong. I'm going to say it again, okay, because this is such a powerful quote. Amateurs do it till they can get it right. Sometimes when I throw the ball, it goes in the basket. I can do it. I can get it right. I can do it in the right conditions. Professionals, they can't miss, okay? Whether it's raining, whether their leg is sore, whether the wind blew some dust in their eye, they still get the basket in the ball in the basket. Okay, now I'm over exaggerating here, but if you're doing something every day, all the time, then in the heat of the battle, it will work. But if you're doing it just a little bit here and there, then when the emotions come out, when you're a little bit tired, when people are talking in the crowd, it's going to distract you. It's like you haven't done this enough. Yeah, you can do it in the right conditions. But if I put you in different condition, you forget. You're not trained enough. So I would tell you, when it comes to striking, shadow boxing is a major key. Because the body is tired. It needs a rest. Like, you can only spar so much. You can only hit mitts so much. You can only hit the bag so much. And all these things are great. And you can only like do certain drills for so long. Shadow boxing is therapeutic. It helps you recover. So on the sorest day, you can still shadow box. Then you're shadow boxing. You're adding rounds. And when you're shadow boxing, you got to be sparring in your head. You're in a fight in your head. So you're rehearsing it so much that when the moment comes for you, it's just another day of fighting. So what I would tell you is you haven't taken those skills that you've developed and turned them to become instinctual. So I always tell my students, if you're not doing it without thinking, you don't know it. You know about the techniques, but you don't know the techniques. You don't know how to take these techniques and make them work in different situations. When you truly know a technique, you do it without thinking, and you'll do it in ways you never learned it. Somebody shows me an armbar, I'm going to do it in any situation, not just the 4 or 5 situations I was taught. Okay, so you got to immerse yourself in the technique and then training. Have you ever considered hosting this show so viewers can request to join and ask questions? Maybe we can finally hear you debate an atheist. This show would go viral. That's from Harzan. Harzan, I absolutely love that suggestion. Like, I would love to put up a link, but the thing is, I'm worried I'm going to get some bozo on here. If somebody who I would trust is like, a schooled person, somebody with credentials maybe. And the other thing is, like, I barely have time to do this podcast. Okay, so I wouldn't be starting to set up debates. Maybe in the future when I retire as a trainer, I would sit down and have formal debates. But right now, I'm not prepping for debates. I'm not going to go and do research and get my sources and all that. There's a lot of work that goes into these guys who debate. Okay, me, I'll have a discussion with anybody, absolutely. But I'm not a full-time debater. Okay, so what do I do for a living? I train fighters for a living. So imagine I have like back-to-back training camps. Like right now I'm in back-to-back training camps. I have to travel. I have to be on the mats every morning, every evening, every single day. Like, people who train with me, they're always talk, you're always in the gym. Yeah, what do you think I do for a living? Like, a lot of trainers, they just go in for the big guys training camp. No, I go for everybody's training camp. I go for every single practice because I'm a very hands-on trainer. I'm always in the practice room. And that's what I'm doing, so I have a wife and kids. I'm not going to pick a topic, research it, get everything ready, and then do like this debate. That's what these debaters do. Okay, so they go and they practice and they rehearse, and who has time for that? Not for me, not for now, but in the future, yes, I would definitely love to have discussions with atheists. And I do it all the time on my own personal time, not on video, but I would do it on video. I would definitely do it, no problem. But here's the thing. A lot of the things I argument, I don't think a lot of people out there can understand very easily early. Like, it's going to take an honest discussion, not somebody who's trying to get a clip or trying to, try to do a gotcha. But if somebody who's actually interested in learning and understanding, because for me, God is self-evident. And I'm ready to argue that with anybody. Because for me, atheism is an impossibility. There's non-stop contradiction. Every which way we look at it, atheism leads to a contradiction and an impossibility. And I would love to discuss that with somebody who, I don't want to say, my arguments are different. So that because they might not have been exposed to the arguments I have, they might find it strange and might take time for them to think about. And then live on the, in the discussion, they might not have that time. So they might feel pressured, But the thing is, I really believe, like I've thought of atheism and theism like probably more than anybody. Like, I know a lot of people talk about this topic and they study it, but I also do that on my own personal time. It's constantly on my mind. It's constantly like, since I've been young, thinking about what is reality, what is true. It's just a weird thing about me. So I never wanted to make it public. I never thought of making it public. But then people just kept asking me questions. Thoughts on Muhammad Hijab's fight? Have you trained him previously? That's from Saga. Saga, I do help him out, here and there. Like I send him videos, he asks me questions, I watch his sparrings. We do remote training together. We've been, we've hung out in the past, but mostly do podcasts and talk. But I have definitely been trying to help him as much as I can in his journey. And I looked at the guy he's fighting. He's a tough guy. He has a very tough opponent. I'm not sure exactly when his fight is. It's in a couple of days, actually. It should be very soon. I think it's this weekend. Hold on, let me look it up. He's fighting a black belt. Let me see. I think it's this weekend. It's not listed, but I did get a message from him recently. I think it is this weekend. All right, guys, let's see here. You guys can fire away the super chats now. I think I got them all. Okay. Coach, what do you think about Gnosticism and Jesus' secret knowledge? Is there validity? That's from Freebird. Okay, guys. So for those of you who don't know, Gnosticism is it's a Christian movement. Okay, Gnosticism just means knowledge. Okay, so I really think the Gnostics have credibility. Absolutely. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, they're heretics." Well, who decides who's heretic? All the Christians were pointing each other at saying they're heretics. In the early church and till today, there's a lot of different Christian sects. Okay, Christianity is the biggest religion in the world, but it's also the most sectarian religion in the world. If you look at Muslims, like close to 90, a little bit, actually, it's a little bit over 90%. We're one type of Muslim. We're all Sunni. Okay, there's some Shia and some other little groups, but the vast majority of us, we subscribe to Sunni Islam. Now, in Christianity, you have a lot of different sects. From the beginning till today, they're divided on so many topics. The Gnostics are very different. They're like all knowledge. It's about knowledge. Because the Christians today, the ones who kind of like spread more, they're the ones who say Jesus died for your sins. You got to believe that Jesus died on a cross. They say God became a man. He died on the cross for your sins and the sins of the past and the sins of Adam and Eve, the literal sin, because everybody's born with a sin, and this requires a great sacrifice, and that sacrifice is Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ is the Son of God and is God himself. Jesus Christ is both the Son of God and God. God who became a man, took on flesh, and died because we weren't good enough. Okay, we sinned. We fell short in the sight of God. Okay, this is how they express themselves. The Gnostic Christians say no, none of that. There's none of that. There's none of that. The Gnostic Christians say no. If you have this knowledge, then you can be saved. It's all about what you know. It's all about how you think, what you know. So they take the sayings of Jesus and they say, look, in these sayings, there's a secret. If you discover the secret, you'll have eternal life. Because they have a different perspective. It has nothing to do with the cross. Now, why do I give them credence? Well, the early church fathers were saying, look, those guys are heretics. Get rid of them. Burn their books. Wipe them off the face of the earth. Okay? And sure enough, they did that mostly, okay? Most of the Gnostics disappeared. But who's to say the church fathers were correct? They just had the bigger guns. They had the bigger army. Not that guns were invented back then, but I'm using it as an expression. They had more might. So they got rid of their enemies. But who's to say their enemies weren't right? What makes you right and him wrong? Who can connect themselves back to the apostles and back to the Christ? Okay, now I'll tell you one major point why I think the Gnostics have a point. Why I think they have credibility. And it's a major one. And it's not an easy one to understand for most people. Okay, because I know some of you guys, you don't really know much about the Bible. So if you don't know much about the Bible, this next point's going to be a little bit hard to understand. But if you do know a lot about the Bible, it should be pretty easy. Scholars, they theorize a gospel called Q. And the Q gospel is the earliest gospel we can get our hands on. Okay, so what's the gospel? The message of Jesus Christ. It means the good news. Jesus Christ gave some good news, and this is the good news, the gospel. Okay, so you have Luke, Mark, Matthew, John. Okay, you have those 4 books. Those are the gospel. Through some analytical thinking in only the last 200 years, guys, you have to understand that the Q, the hypothetical source Q, is such a major leap forward in historical thinking. Why? Well, now we have computers, guys. We can put all these gospels and, cross-examine them, cross-examine the data, and we can figure out things no human being ever figured out before because of the invention of computers and algorithms. And they discovered that certain books copied themselves word for word, and that they must have used a certain source. Now, without a diagram, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but the earliest gospel is Mark, and Matthew and Luke borrow from Mark. They copy Mark for word. So if you take all that stuff out, the stuff that Mark and Luke have in common that's copied word for word must be a different book. And that's what they call the Q. Okay. Now, the Q gospel has to be older. Why? Because how could I copy a book that doesn't exist yet? If I'm copying a book, it has to exist before I copy it. So they're saying it's the early gospel. Now, the earliest gospel is the Q, and the Q has no crucifixion narrative. 0 crucifixion narrative. There's no story about Jesus Christ dying for people's sins. So the earliest source is a sayings gospel, and it starts with basically you have to understand these certain religious ideas, and then you'll be saved. It's exactly what the Gnostics say. The Gnostics say you have to have a certain level of knowledge. You have to know these secrets. You have to understand these words. And if you understand these words and you accept these words, then you could be saved. There is nothing to do with the crucifixion narrative. Now, the gospel Q has no crucifixion narrative. There's no story about the crucifixion. So it wasn't central to the gospel. And it's early. It's the source of Matthew and Luke. So the earliest writings and sayings and oral tradition of Christianity was very likely missing of the crucifixion narrative, which is huge because the Gnostics directly said that the crucifixion narrative is a later innovation. Have you read the book by René Guénon, Gay Estan, and Salman Chouan? They're all Sufi mystics and perennialists. They're a cool doco on YouTube in the regard that I recommend. All right, let me see. René Guénon. Let me look it up. I have not heard of these gentlemen, but I'll take a look. Let me type. Let's see if I can find it. You're going to have to give me the name of the documentary because I can't find it. I did a quick search, but please you don't have to put another super chat. Just put it in the chat and put it in bold letters. I'm sure I'll find it. Coach, is TriStar in West Island which better? What? Giovanni, you got to work on your grammar, brother. Coach, is TriStar in the West Island which better? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, but I don't run the TriStar gym in West Island. No. Okay. Coach, why doesn't Joe invite you back on his podcast? We'd love to see you both again talking about fitness, MMA, philosophy, and religion for 3-4 hours. That's from Barat. Barat, I would go. I'm just never in Texas. Okay, so me and him we bump into each other every so then in UFC, but it hasn't I was supposed to be the one in San Antonio, and I had to cancel my trip. But the San Antonio, I would have been in there for a day because I had a fight the day before, and it was crazy. My schedule was crazy, so I didn't go. But the next time I'm in Texas, I will give him a ring, and I'm sure we'll get together. Forgive me, coach, for using that word. How long am I in timeout? That's from Salah. Salah, you're back, my man. You're back. I think I put you maybe 10 minutes. I'm not sure. But please don't use that word, okay? Because, Coach, what are your thoughts on someone who says they don't believe in religion but say they believe in supreme being? That's from Saul. So I kind of understand it because, a lot of people give religion a bad name. Like, it's really, horrific. You got a lot of dummies talking about religion, and they say stuff that's absolutely moronic, absolutely embarrassing. You got a lot of people killing in the name of religion. You got a lot of people you look at the Middle East. It's supposed to be they're supposed to be the ones teaching us, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't kill, be virtuous. And then you see they're constantly fighting each other. They're always blood, 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 blood. So people start thinking, oh, look, religion brings death, destruction, etc., which statistically it doesn't. Okay, like the most violent societies ever were the secular societies by far. Okay, so the 21st century was the most bloodiest century in human history, World War II. And why? It came on the cusp of Darwin. Darwin happened, and everybody's like, wait a second, we're beasts. We're not God's special creatures. We're beasts, man. It's a fight for survival. It's a fight for being on top. I hate to say it, but Hitler's ideology stemmed a lot from an influence, was heavily influenced by Darwinism, heavily. So he was like, look, struggle is normal. Violence is normal. We got to struggle for the top. We got to breed the number one human being or else we're going to disappear. Our species is going to disappear. He brought race to the forefront. Whereas, look, think about this, okay? Let me put a poll, okay? I'm going to put a poll in the chat just for fun. Are all men equal? Simple question. Are all men equal? Quick question for you. Now, if you subscribe to the Abrahamic religions, you have Adam and Eve, and all men are children. And when I say men, I mean all mankind, women included. We're all children of God. We're made in the image of God, etc. And we're all very important. Okay, so we have equality. Maybe some are taller, maybe some are smarter, maybe some are faster, but ultimately we have this thing inside us, a soul that's given to us by God, and that's really what counts. And we all got one, and we're all equal in that sense. Ultimately, God is the great equalizer. And then you have naturalism, Darwinism. Darwinism is saying, look, there is no God. He later became an agnostic. Okay, let's not debate whether he was an atheist or not. Let's just call him an agnostic for now, because I don't want to get sidetracked in a tangent here. If I'm a naturalist and I don't believe in God, and I don't believe that people have something called a soul or anything special, then how do we say that men are equal? All men are equal. You cannot use naturalism to get to all men are equal. You can't. Some are smarter, some are bigger, some are stronger, some are more clever, some are more savvy, some have vastly greater potential to do certain things. And that's what Hitler was saying. He was saying, look, our race is going to win. If we all threw down, if we all fought to the death, the German race is eventually going to end up on top. So let's do it. Let's pull the pin on this grenade. Let's start the bloodbath right now. And we got to struggle and fight for our survival. Ultimately speaking, that's what he was saying. Ultimately speaking. Now, he didn't start like that. The more powerful he got, the more brave he got, the more he became more and more, much more of a supremacist. But how can anybody get to all men are equal and use atheistic naturalism as a worldview? How? Some men are stronger, some men are taller, some men are healthier, some men have better genetics. Like Hitler, how was he going to get rid of cancer? He's like, oh, don't let them breed. If you have a genetic defect, we're not going to let you breed. Actually, eventually in his program, you had to prove how German you were. You had to have a perfect German blood and no diseases, and then you can get a certificate to breed. That was coming down the line, okay? And he was also actually breeding human beings, okay? He was making German babies, the perfect German babies. And ultimately speaking, he was trying to raise human beings like we breed horses. But it makes sense in his worldview. In his worldview, you got to be tall, slender, strong, high IQ, disease-free. If you're not any of those things, we don't want you to breed. But here's the thing. The counter-argument to that is people say, you're trying to play God, because you think that breeding these two people are going to make somebody taller, faster, stronger, smarter, less diseased, etc. And you think that's going to bring you some kind of major gain. But ultimately, if you would have whacked Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking had a disease, but he's one of the most brilliant minds ever. Einstein, he early on, he didn't show that much promise. It was later on in life, and he wasn't 6 feet tall, blue-eyed, and super muscular and disease-free. No. But he had another gift somehow, somewhere. There's a lot of men in history who we frowned on. We think they don't have much potential, and all of a sudden, they bust out the gate, and they discover their gifts later on in life. Those guys, you would have whacked them all. You would have whacked them all. You wouldn't have let them breed. You wouldn't have let them succeed. You wouldn't have let them be the champions they later became in history. History is full of upsets. History is full of inspirational stories of guys or people or individuals we thought wouldn't make it, and they went from worst to first. And you think you could tell who's going to end up in the first place? You can't. And here's the thing. Ultimately, Hitler's Germany failed. His supreme, superior, everything. Oh, we're so much smarter. We're so much. And don't get me wrong. The German people are incredibly successful in terms of math, science, history. Incredible. Athletics. The German people, guys, I study philosophy. So many of the great thinkers are German. It's not an accident, okay? They're brilliant people. I'm not trying to put the German people down at all, okay? I have a tremendous respect for what they've done and what they ethically done. No, I'm not talking about their dark history. They have a dark history in World War II, and they're quite ashamed of it, most of them, okay? So I would tell you, not praising that, of course not. I'm saying in terms of engineering, math, science, their contribution to world's level of knowledge is quite incredible. And especially German thinkers like Leibniz and Kant. I'm a major admirer of them, okay? Goethe and all that. Like, they're brilliant human beings. Now, I'm talking about a specific sliver, a small amount of thinkers that were, in my opinion, overly zealous about the natural method, okay, the natural selection. They thought that, hey, why let nature decide? Let's breed human beings the way we see them fit. And ultimately, they didn't win. They didn't win. Why didn't they win? Well, here's the thing, okay? When you have this kind of extreme right thinking, then even the elite are not elite enough. Even Hitler himself wouldn't have passed his scrutiny for genetic breeding. But he's the great leader. Think about how, look, I'm not saying Hitler was a good guy. He was a horrible human being. But I'll tell you something. He was very intelligent, charismatic. He got people to follow him. He was an incredibly gifted speaker, an evil human being, but persuasive. People don't know the Adolf Hitler story. He was just a foot soldier in World War I. He was a nothing in World War I. Okay, now he was quite brave, in terms of facing danger. I'll give him that. He got mustard. He got mustard gas twice. He was a messenger. He would go from World War I was a trench war. You dig a trench, then you'd, fight to the death, and then you'd move a few meters, dig another trench. It was a horrible war. Okay, that's why they call it a trench war. A lot of people died just to get a few feet further and dig another trench. It was just pure stupidity and violence. Now, Hitler had the horrible job of having to relay messages across the battlefield. And that's like the most dangerous job. The messenger always gets shot, killed, poisoned. Hitler survives that. Then he's just a bum on the street. Literally was a homeless man. Think about this. Hitler at one point was a homeless man living in the streets of Germany. Not knowing that years from now, he'll be the most powerful man in the history of Europe. He didn't know that. He's literally sleeping on the street. Poor. Broke. Germany loses World War I. The economy tanks. Hitler is a guy living on the street. And then he gets a job to spy for the government. Go into bars and tell us who's plotting against us. And Hitler giving his speeches in a bar. He was hearing people Talk about how Germany has to break down and fragment, and we have to go our separate ways. And he gave a speech about unity. His speeches were so moving. Adolf Hitler's speeches were so moving. He had the gift of the gab. He had the lip. He could talk and convince people. He could persuade people. Now, that guy living in the street who could barely survive had the gift of the gab. He discovered his gift. He was a persuasive interlocutor. And this is how he became the world's most, well, at that time, he became arguably the world's most powerful man, arguably, at one point in time. He was giving speeches in pubs, and more people started attending his speeches. And then they're like, hey, why don't you become the leader of our group? And then from there, he became all the way, it's a long story. I'm giving you a shortcut. But he became the dictator, ultimately became a dictator of Germany. And at that time, Germany was the most sophisticated, technological country in the world, militarily, at the very least, making him the world's most powerful man. The guy was living in the street. He discovered he has the gift of persuasion. And with the gift of persuasion, he literally became the world's most powerful man for a period of time. But ultimately, he failed. Ultimately, he failed because he thought everybody had to be perfect. And his most trusted advisors and officers betrayed him. Why? They're like, this guy's standards are impossible. And every time we make a mistake, he kills one of us. He thinks it's either you're either strong enough to survive or off you. He had an ultimately scary and violent approach to success. Now, Hitler was also a charming guy. Okay, he could charm the pants off people, but ultimately they knew that if they screwed up, they weren't good enough, he'd chop your head off, so to speak, and put the next guy in line. So his officers started to plot against him and abandon him. The man was short on compassion, and he was short-sighted ultimately. But not to say he wasn't intelligent, he wasn't persuasive. He had his own gifts. But if Adolf Hitler saw some young guy in Adolf Hitler's position, he'd be like, this guy's not good enough. He's not good enough. But ultimately, he was an evil man. Okay, guys, with that said, all right, are men equal? All men equal? 59% say no. 59% say no. Wow. Guys, come on, man. That's harsh. Hey, for us, what's the difference between someone who wrestled as a kid into adulthood versus someone who picked up wrestling as an adult for MMA? That's from Vazni. Vazni, it depends, like, generally, if you picked it up as a child, a younger age, you should have a better wrestling. Okay, you should have a better instinct. But sometimes I find they're so in the mold of wrestling, you can't teach them anything else. So I would tell you, look, there's two types of wrestlers that grew up wrestling. Two. One that only did wrestling, and the other one, he did wrestling and other sports. The guy who did wrestling and other sports, he converts to MMA a lot better. The guy who just did wrestling, like a Ben Askren, then you try to teach him how to box. He can't box, no matter how much. You can get me the best trainers in the world. We can't teach this guy to box. We just can't teach him. So I think it's important for kids to learn different motor skills. Let them play baseball. Let them play hockey. Let them do shuffleboard. Let them do every sport. Let them play ping pong. I don't care. Just do another sport. Wrestling is important, but you got to do other things. Swimming, diving, whatever. Just do something else. Break the mold. Don't make your body just move in one way, because then it's like a Damian Maia. You try to teach him how to punch. You can't teach him how to punch. Like, there's something neurologically bent in the way that we're trained, because they learned only one thing. So their body only moves in one way. It's quite incredible, actually, I would tell you. Quite incredible. Children should do a sport that they concentrate in, and other sports, and for sure other sports. I don't care if it's track and field. Gymnastics is great because it's very general. But something else, man. Soccer, basketball, baseball. Get them moving their body in creative and imaginative ways, because you're going to get stuck in a groove. Okay, so I would tell you that some wrestlers grew up in such a groove they can't convert to MMA. They just can't do it. Coach, on Google, it says Hitler was homeless before World War One. That's from Salah. Was it before World War One? Yeah, probably. You're right. Maybe. You're right. Because there wasn't that much time between World War One and World War Two. So yeah, I would say it was probably before. Let them play American football. It's bad for your brain, but you go through a war with a real brotherhood. That's from Harakan. It is kind of bad for the brain. I mean, maybe there's better options at football. Because football it's not good. For the brain, not the best. I used to love football. I used to play high school football. I loved football. I love the game of football, but not the healthiest thing. Coach, I plan on moving to Montreal to train at TriStar and pursue MMA to become UFC champion and the GOAT. Inshallah. My parents want me to go to uni, so I plan on going to McGill. Your thoughts? That's from Mahab. Mahab, that's what I did. I went to university and I trained, and a lot of us did it, and it's a very important combination. You don't want to just be a knucklehead, right? You want to train your cerebral cortex here. It's good to have a time in your life where you have so much time on your hands. You don't have a wife and kids. You don't have a career, that you could study and train. And you could do those things for a short period of time in your life. Then you're going to kind of decide which one you're going to follow. But now's the time. If you have that opportunity, take it. It's going to enrich your life. Have you read The Spinal Engine? That's from Hassan. Hassan, The Spinal Engine? That rings a bell, but no, I haven't. The Spinal Engine. That's interesting. Where have I heard that before? Oh, that's interesting. Biomechanical theories on the function of the spine, analysis their limitation. The spinal engine theory made simple. Okay, I'm going to have to look that up. That's interesting. I'm going to save that to my watch later list. Thank you for that recommendation. I highly appreciate it. You're a gentleman and a scholar. And I will look at that when I have some free time. Have you heard about the well maker? I love these crazy things you guys bring up to me. The well maker. What is the well maker? Okay. No. The well maker. The well maker. What's the well maker? No, nothing's popping up. Ilya Topuria breakup can affect on his next fight. That's from Tech9. I saw a headline. Is that true? I don't know. Honestly, obviously, I don't want to get into the man's personal life, but definitely, if he's getting divorced or whatnot, that could definitely play a role in a man's focus. That's definitely for real. That's for sure. Because I remember Mike Tyson. There's a lot of guys. I lost track of how many Mike Tyson documentaries there is. I've lost complete track. But there's one Mike Tyson documentary that I thought was the best of them all. It's the one where he sits down and he tells his story, and he's older. He has a tattoo on his face, and it's after he went to prison. It came out maybe like 10 years ago. It's not that old. And you could see now he has a lot of life experience. He's looking back at his life and telling you the story about his life. It's the best documentary, best Mike Tyson documentary ever. And believe me, there has been a lot of Mike Tyson documentaries, but this one is amazing. He was world champion at 21 years old. He gets married. She's like a famous, beautiful actress. I can't remember her name. And he's on Prozac because he's depressed. Explain that to me. You're 21 years old. You're world champion. You're married to a supermodel. You're making millions and millions of dollars a fight in the 1980s. He's like making like $20 million a fight. You're the world's most famous boxer. And he's saying, yeah, my wife was divorcing me because he famously lost to a fighter named Buster Douglas. A guy who Mike Tyson was supposed to walk over. Like, Buster Douglas was supposed to be a punching bag. Buster Douglas was supposed to get crushed, annihilated, evaporated, eviscerated. This fight happened in Japan. Mike Tyson was supposed to bulldoze over him. Yet Mike Tyson gets finished knocked out. Now, Mike Tyson's reminiscing about this. He's like, look, man, I was in depression. They had me on Prozac. My wife was leaving me, and Don King was suing me for all my money. Like his manager was, everybody was betraying him. His whole world was falling down. And he's like, my trainer, Castamata. Now, don't forget, Castamata, he discovered Mike Tyson at a young age. Mike Tyson got into a street fight at the age of 14 or 15. He knocks this guy out, and people are like, whoa, man, you're a great puncher. You should go boxing gym, Catskill, New York. And he goes into the boxing gym, and Castamata, a world-class trainer, sees this kid and is like, whoa, this kid could be a future world champion. So Castamata adopts him. He's like, hey, this kid ain't going nowhere. I know I'm going to make a world champion out of this kid. Now, when Mike Tyson got to know Castamata's a rich white man. He's like, I'm just going to rob these white people. He's like, he didn't believe in the dream of becoming a boxing world champion. He's like, hey, this guy's crazy. He's an old man. He thinks I'm going to be a boxing champion. Mike Tyson had no such aspirations. He didn't know much about boxing. He didn't understand the market. He didn't understand there's millions of dollars to be made. He's a young kid. And he's like, I'm just going to rob him. I'm going to become friends with him. I'm going to wait for the right opportunity. I'm going to take what they got. I'm going to go on the run. Mike Tyson was like a survivor at that time. He had a very bleak outlook of life. He's describing you his life. And he's like, Castamata treated me like family. He took care of me. He loved me. He showed me love. And Castamata died before Mike Tyson ever became champion. But you knew in Mike Tyson's career, Mike Tyson won the gold in the Olympics. We knew he was good. Like everybody watching him was like, it's a matter of time before this guy's world champion. He was a phenom. Castamata dies before he actually becomes a world champion, if I remember correctly. And he's telling you the story. Now, he died way before the Buster Douglas fight, that's for sure. Because Castamata told Mike Tyson, and this is Mike Tyson in his own words, he's like, look, Castamata told me, when I become world champion, people are going to come around me. They're going to be snakes. They're going to try to betray me. They're going to try to trick me. They're going to try to get stuff from me. They're going to... He's like, I want to watch out for myself. And he's like, it all came true. Everything Castamata warned me about all came true. Guys, I got to tell you something. I lived it too. When George St. Pierre was champion for 9 years, guys. I saw all sorts of snakes and betrayals and all this. And I'll tell you something. Me and George, we stuck by it for a decade. And everything came between us. And we're always fair with each other, loyal to one another, never lied to one another. Me and him never lied to each other. Never tried to betray each other. Never. But I'll tell you it was just like in the movies. Snakes everywhere. Lies everywhere. Betrayal everywhere. It's crazy. But Mike Tyson is living it like at the fast life. Why? He doesn't have anybody who actually cares about him. His wife is divorcing him. His manager's taking money from him. His doctor's prescribing him Prozac. He's not a cerebral guy at this stage. He seems to have gotten a lot wiser as he got older. And then the interviewer asks him, okay, are you angry? Because don't forget, he got humiliated in the Buster Douglas fight. He lost everything at that point. He lost his title. He lost his prestige. He lost the aura that he's unbeatable. These were important things. It put him in a psychological state where he's like doubting himself. And Mike Tyson said something incredible. He's like, no, I'm not mad. We were just kids. He's talking about him and his wife and how they got divorced. He goes, we were just kids. And now, of course, he's been married many times. He's had many kids. He's looking back at that. He's not angry. But at the time, it played a major role in his loss to Buster Douglas. Now, Buster Douglas, I got to give it to him. He went in there against the guy nobody wants to fight, and he beat him. The only guy who thought Buster Douglas could win was probably just Buster Douglas and maybe his coach. Nobody else thought Buster Douglas can win. It was such a major upset. Probably one of the greatest upsets in sports history. Long story short, Mike Tyson, looking back, says, yeah, we were just kids. I thought that was incredible. Like at that time, it was the most catastrophic day of his life. Now he looks back at it and is like, not a big deal. It's quite inspiring. But ultimately speaking, just goes to show how these kind of things can change your ability to fight. Your mind is here. You're not preparing. You're not digging. You think, oh, this fight's going to be easy. Everybody thinks you're going to win. They're already writing the winner's check. They know they're putting Mike Tyson. Guess what? Didn't happen. The guy beat you. It's a crazy, unbelievable, shocking turn of events. I got to watch that fight. After this is done, I'm probably going to watch the Buster Douglas fight. I've spent over $500 on Jiu-Jitsu Club over the past 3 years or more, but it seems like I'm soaring past all my peers on the mat. That's from Kevin. Kevin, isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it knowing more and understanding more? And I got a lot more good videos coming out, okay? And I'm going to have something special for you guys on Jiu-Jitsu Club in the future. I don't want to talk too much because then people start twisting my arm. But I'm going to make it even better. It's going to be even better. You're going to have one place to go for everything you need, and you're going to have the best martial arts experience ever. It's going to be epic. But thank you very much for that. And guys, you know what? I used to have the best reviews on Jiu-Jitsu Club, and then the app that we use to make those reviews, they shut down their app, so we lost all our reviews. So one day I'm going to put another review thing so you guys can leave for reviews. But I used to love reading those reviews. I know everybody out there loved the content and material, and it encourages me to do more. So I really appreciate that. In the future, we will have the reviews back on. I don't know why. Like, 'cause we use Shopify, and Shopify, like, you plug and play an app. My guy told me, no, plug and play an app, but that app stopped working. They went out, they discontinued the app. So everything, all the reviews we collected, I'm like, what happens to them? Where are they stored? They're like on their database, and it's gone. It's all gone. So we lost our reviews. But you can still go read my reviews on BJJ Fanatics. On BJJ Fanatics, they sell my videos, and you can see all 5-star reviews. Alhamdulillah. Coach, did you know Buster Douglas' mom had died and he made a promise to her that I'm going to win before that fight? That's from Mahab. No, I didn't know that. That's incredible. That's incredible, man. Wow, I didn't know that. I'm going to try to verify that later, but that's crazy. I mean, there's got to be a Buster Douglas documentary somewhere. There's got to be. I have to look it up because that was an incredible Cinderella story. Coach, I have found the most amazing conservative partner to make my wife. Dating 5 years now. Only worry is exclusivity to one woman, as she is my first partner. Thoughts? That's from Prod. Prod by Mobin. Prod, I would have loved if you put your age. That would have been great. But I don't want to get too much in your personal business. Like, I will tell you something. Go for it. Okay. I'll tell you why. Okay. If you found the gem, you're not going to find another one. Okay, I'll tell you, they're not easy to find. So if you found the gem, God bless you. Take it. And I'll tell you something. Statistically speaking, people have more enjoyable sex with their lifelong partner than they do with a random stranger or a not so serious stranger. So statistically speaking, people enjoy sex more with their long-term partner. Now, I personally would tell you, it's really a man's responsibility. If that part of the life is good, it's really the man. Because here's the thing. Most men don't know anything about women. Men don't understand what it takes to make a woman happy and how to, do the deed properly. So like you study jiu-jitsu or whatever, if you're an architect or whatever, you got to study that. You got to take a time in your life where you really focus and understand and go to the next level and really take care of business. Because the problem with men is that they are too easily reach the finish line, and women can't get to the finish line, and that creates a big disconnect because the man thinks, oh, she's feeling what I'm feeling. Well, actually, she's not. So I think that's one of the biggest obstacles young men have, is they don't understand what's going on. They think everything is perfect and everything is great. No. You're missing the mark. The target is over there, actually. You've been punching this way, but the target's over there. So I think that's what you should focus on. You don't need to think about all the other women. Focus on your woman. You found a great gem, and make that part of your life really incredible. I think now today with social media, everybody's like, oh, I'm missing out. The grass is always greener on the other side. Personally, I think it's a massive illusion. People are getting divorced left and right because they think the world is better on the other side of the world, and the grass is greener on the other side, and the restaurant's food is better over there. And then they go and they realize, I'm chasing a ghost. I'm chasing an illusion. There's a rapid divorce is skyrocketing. There's a rapid increase in divorce, and people aren't getting married. So you have less marriages and more divorce. Why? I think social media has a major influence because people put up this illusion that they're having this perfect life and they're having all these great experiences. Yeah, right. It's all sanitized. It's all choreographed. It's all an illusion. And people fall for it. People are naive. I lost my brother 4 years ago today. It really doesn't get any easier with time. Any advice on how to deal with loss? That's from Harris. Harris, my condolences, my deepest condolences to you. I have 3 brothers myself, and I can imagine how difficult it could be for you. I would tell you, look, here's the thing, okay, with losing a loved one. Me personally, I always tell my family members, people I love, when one of us passes on, I'm very positive about it. I believe that I'm going to meet that person again. I'm going to see that person again. Well, how is the mechanism between me and meeting that person again? Well, I look at the whole world. The world is cyclical. The whole world is cyclical. Like I came into this life, I'm going to go into the next. And that's it. That's how I see it. I think there's part of a human being that's immortal. There's a part of the human being that can live on forever. Look, I woke up in this world and I was thirsty and there was something to drink. Now, as a philosopher, I could tell you, there's nothing illogical about a world existing, what we call in philosophy a possible world, where everybody's thirsty and there's nothing to drink. It's not an impossibility. There's nothing contradictory about that. Now, we so happen to live in a world where you have thirst and you have drink. You have hunger and you have food. You have fatigue and you have sleep. There's no contradiction. You know, in philosophy, we have something called possible worlds. We dream up of different worlds and we talk about them and we say what's logical, what's not logical. Okay, and I know it sounds weird, but believe me, this is like staple philosophy. Is there a possible world where people are tired, but the organism doesn't sleep? The human beings or the creatures, whatever, they don't sleep. They can't sleep. There's a mechanical issue why they cannot sleep, and they suffer from fatigue. It's not logically impossible. So it could be the case that there's a world where you were tired, we're fatigued, we're born in the world, we're feeling fine, we're not tired, then we get tired and we stay tired and there's no way for us to fall asleep. Mechanically, there's something obstructing us. Now, on the flip side of the coin, there's no possible world ever where 1 + 1 = 3. There's no possible world. That's a contradiction. That's an impossibility. It's analytically impossible that such a world exists. Okay, so now you kind of understand what I mean by possible worlds. But there is a possible world where you're feeling lonely, but there's nobody to be with. You're just alone in the universe and you're lonely. So you have a need, but no satisfaction to that need. Okay, there is a possible world. It's logically consistent what I'm saying. So I'm telling you, look, I grew up with all these desires and wants, and I live in a world where they can all be satisfied. But I have this other desire as well. I have this desire that I want to live forever. Now, why would I have thoughts about living forever if living forever is impossible? Why would I have thoughts like that? Like if you look at any creature, like you think a deer running around in the woods thinks, hey, I want to live forever. It doesn't think like that. It doesn't have metacognition. Human beings, we have something called metacognition. We have thoughts about our thoughts. We don't just have thoughts. Okay, that thoughts is already a miracle. But we have thoughts about our thoughts. Okay. So like I'm thirsty, I have something to drink. Like I'm sleepy, I have the opposite, which is rest. I have the desire to want to live forever. I have thoughts about the afterlife, living again, being born, dying, and reborn. Okay, so because I have these thoughts, I feel that when I observe the world, things were dead and they come to life. I'm not eternal. I wasn't always alive. I used to not exist. I used to be dead. But now I came to life. So I feel when I die, I'm going to come back to life again. And I saw you in one cycle, I'll see you in another. So I occupy my mind with these kind of thoughts. I believe that it's only a matter of time before I see my relatives again. So that's how I like to think about it. So to make things easier for you, and this is truly what I believe, look at the world. It's cyclical. You used to not exist. Think about this, okay? If you're going to be born, you have to first not exist. So you have a birthday, right? That's the day you came into being. We celebrate it, right? Everybody celebrates it. Well, where did you come from being? You came from non-existence. Well, you're going to die and you're going to recycle again. The whole world is cyclical. All of existence is cyclical. Salam, Coach. What are your thoughts on sorry. Got to put the glasses on. What are your thoughts on post-transhuman future will look like with tech like AI and CRISPR genetically modifying the human race? I'm not sure what CRISPR is. There must be somebody wanting to modify the human race. That's from Talal. Talal, I really think AI is going to be a massive disruptor and maybe the greatest disruptor in the history of mankind. Wow. Like AI, I think about it and I'm like, wow, Skynet is real. Skynet is going to happen. We should have banned that movie. We should have made it like, if you really want to avoid AI, we should have stopped it in, what was it, in the 90s when Terminator 2 came out? We should have banned that movie. We should have erased every possible existence of it. Everybody who writes such a story has to be... I'm just joking, obviously, guys. I'm not being serious here, but you guys get what I'm saying. Skynet is inevitable. We can't stop it. They pulled the pin on the grenade. They threw the grenade. Guys, if you're not worried about AI, you just don't understand what AI is doing. You just don't get it. Soon AI is going to drive our cars. Why? Everybody's going to want AI cars. If you don't make it, the other country's going to make it, and they're going to have the best cars in the world. AI is going to fly our planes. AI is going to be traffic control. AI is going to do everything for you. AI is going to cook your food. AI is going to mail your packages to you with drones, and it's going to be like a ballet. You're not going to need... Everything's going to be cheaper. Why? There's no human beings. You don't have to pay labor. AI is going to use crypto. AI can have a bank account now. They can't have a bank account like you and me, but they can have a crypto account. So all of a sudden, they're going to be like, what do we need these human beings for? Because don't forget, AI is really about computers making computers. Algorithms creating algorithms. And the original programmer, the human being who programmed it, doesn't know what's the seventh generation of algorithms. He doesn't know. It's unforeseeable consequences. Eventually, AI is going to see us as inefficient and in the way. And there's no set of rules that can ever be so perfectly defined that AI won't interpret it in a certain way that's going to turn against us. I just see it turning out badly for us. Thoughts on MMA being in the Olympics? That's from Draco. That would be amazing. I would highly encourage that. I think it's going to be... Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, I think, are going to be the most popular sports in the world, eventually. So I highly, highly recommend that they put it in the Olympics already. Okay, guys, don't forget, I'm always doing super chats and non-super chats, so feel free to do either. Hey, Coach, I'm watching your streams as much as time allows, and I wanted to thank you for spreading positive information to all humans around the world. You're a diamond in the rough. That's from Gary Amlinger. Gary, man, you're going to make me blush. Thank you very much. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I appreciate that very much. That's very sweet of you. Merci beaucoup. I appreciate that very, very much. I hope you are enjoying these podcasts. Will you visit Austin and train at Kingsway soon? Just got home from Gary's class. That's from John Luke. John Luke, I would love to, man. I have to go visit my trainer, John. I haven't seen him since he's moved to Texas. But, I mean, I've seen him in other cities, but I haven't been to Kingsway or training with them in Texas. But I would definitely, if time allows, love to go visit because I'm always in training camp. You know, always got guys fighting. So it's a bit difficult. But I hope UFC goes to Texas on a regular basis eventually so I can do the Rogan show, visit Kingsway, etc. Coach, is war necessary to give man purpose? That's from Freebird. No, absolutely not. I much prefer living in a world without war. I think, you know what, if you guys really want to fight, you really want to fight, okay, leave us out of it. Leave us out. These politicians love fighting. They love to like strut around and be like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this to you. Okay, guys, what about this? How about you leave us civilians out of it? You guys really don't like each other? All right. Get in the ring. Glove them up. Oh, and all of a sudden they're going to start getting along. Yeah, because they pick fights and we have to fight them. Our sons have to fight it. It's absurd. It's disgusting. Like I was listening to Ted Cruz talk and he's like, oh, well, It says in the Bible. He was talking to Tucker Carlson. And you got to understand, like, Ted Cruz is an ignoramus. Guys, I don't care if you like him or not. I got to give it to you straight. And I'm trying to be as nice as possible here. He's an ignoramus. He's like, well, it says in the Bible, we got to bless Israel. And Tucker Carlson's like, okay, what verse is that? So you make a claim. Now it's time for you to substantiate it. You make a claim. Now we want you to substantiate it. Oh, I don't know where it is. I don't know where the verse is. It never says in the Bible, guys, check the whole Bible. It never says you have to bless Israel. It never says that. Okay? He's a moron. He's an ignoramus. He's a fool. He's not a theologian. Okay? Theologians know very well what it says. It says in the Bible that those who bless Abraham will be blessed, and those who curse him are going to be cursed. Abraham, not Israel. Now, Israel is one thing. Abraham's another. Yes, Abraham's the father of Israel, sure. But he's also the father of the Muslims, the Ishmaelites. Okay, Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, the Muslims, and Isaac's the father of the Christian and the Jews. They're both blessed. And who are the people that bless Abraham every day? You know, Muslims, we pray 5 times a day. In every prayer, we send blessings to the Prophet Abraham. Every single prayer. Alayhi salam. We're the ones blessing Abraham. Yes, we have to bless Abraham 100%. No, it never says you have to bless Israel. So, of course, that's a topic for debate. Many discussions, many caveats to be had. But he's such an ignoramus. He thinks that the Bible said something and he doesn't even know where. And he goes, that's what I was taught as a kid. That's what they told me. I never went and see what it really means. I don't even know the passage. But I'm going to make foreign policy according to what somebody told me when I was a kid. And I don't even know what that means, but I'm just going to parrot it because I'm an ignoramus. That's Ted Cruz, guys. In a nutshell, that is Ted Cruz. He was taught something as a young kid. He never pontificated it. He never studied it. He never tried to understand what it means. He's just like, oh, we got to do this. So now he's justifying the genocide that's going on in the Middle East. He's an ignoramus. That's all I gotta say. Like, these are people in power. These are the people making decisions. And I love how Tucker Carlson called them out on it. It's okay. What verse? Let me understand it. Let me dig deeper. Let me understand, what does it mean to bless Abraham? Like, what does it mean to he would have been, I bet you Ted Cruz has no idea that it says bless Abraham. I tell you, man, these guys are so ignorant. Because I've listened to more than one Ted Cruz speech. It's scary how ignorant. We're talking about, like, how could I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just going to describe it. He's dumb. He's just dumb. It's incredible. He's just a dumb man. Thoughts on north-south compared to side control or mount? Been working with it past few months, and it seems to have large upside compared to side control. That's from AT Minor 12. I really like side control even over mount. Now, I know when you go from side control and you mount, you get points. So I would tell you mount. But for finishing, I'd rather be in side control. North-south I like, but I would say it's side control, north-south, and then mount. So you don't get points for going north-south. So people go mount because they want to score, right? And maybe they take your back from mount. But I find it harder to finish from mount than to finish from side control. And I would say I find it harder to finish from north-south. But if you're having good time from north-south, go for it. But I much rather side control. We always talked about your philosophies and are coming down to train with you. Jazakallahu khair for the advice, coach. That's from Harris. Thank you very much, Harris. Jazakallahu khair, brother. Appreciate that. Do you know how much water AI uses? Does it use water? Like, is there a cooling effect? AI requires vast amounts of water for server cooling and electricity production, with specific water usage varying by location and technology. But large data centers can consume billions of gallons annually, impacting local water supplies. Projections suggest this consumption could significantly worsen with annual water demand possibly reaching billions of cubic meters by 2027. That's incredible. I didn't know that such a problem existed. Wow. AI is challenging waters and civil and environmental engineering. Wow. Why don't they use water from the ocean? Because it's just for cooling, right? Man, I would love to figure. I have to look into that. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. That's very interesting. Coach, my father is a Palestinian Muslim. We debate free will, and he said that as a Muslim, you can't believe in determinism, as it says in the Quran. You have free will. What are your thoughts on this? That's from Blake. Blake, he's wrong. No offense. It's one of the 6 articles of faith. Okay, Qadar Allah. Everything is destined. What's the first thing in the Islamic tradition? What's the first thing that God creates? The pen. So if you look in the Islamic tradition, the first thing God creates is the pen. Now, what does it mean, the pen? Well, I think it suggests, okay, a pen, yes, and it writes down everything from now till Judgment Day. So think about that. Everything that was created and done was written before it was created and done. Till Judgment Day. And then there's no more writing. So think about when you make a movie, right? First you write a script. And that's a mental exercise. It's mind. I think it's pointing to mind. Everything is mind, okay? But that's another topic for another day. Now, it's part of the Islamic creed to believe that everything is written. It's maktub. Everything is maktub. So how could you say we don't believe in determinism? Like literally what's written is the day you're born, the day you're going to die, and everything that happened in between. Except your judgment is not written. So your dad has to revisit the pillars of the faith, okay? Because I'll tell you something. Nobody put determinism on the map like the Muslims. Nobody. And you're right, we do have free will. They're not contradictory. They're apparently contradictory. And I answer this question all the time, so I can't go into it again because I even actually answered it during this podcast. This very podcast. You might have tuned in late. The Muslims went far and wide to try to understand how the two can be compatible. And I find they were highly successful at doing so. Again, these are subtle views, difficult to understand. But nonetheless, there's no doubt in Islam we're determined. No doubt. And let me tell you something. Atheists believe we're determined. Muslims who believe we're determined. We all agree on this. Whether you're a theist or not, we all agree. And here's the other thing. I hear a lot about, there's this weird... Anyways, this is a weird thing. The Islamic dilemma. The Quran says the Bible is preserved, the gospel is preserved, and it says also that it's corrupted. Guys, if you read the Quran carefully, the Quran talks about how everything is written. Everything is preserved. In the Quran it says this. It says you can't distort the word of God. But then we say the Bible is distorted. Ask Muslim scholars. Don't ask these morons on the internet. A lot of them don't know, okay? But if you read the Quran carefully, the Quran refers to the original writings. The original writings are with God. So the pen that wrote everything also wrote the revelation that was revealed. It literally wrote every little thing, an infinite amount of things that occurred, including the word of God, scripture. It can never be corrupted. Now, on this earth, it can be corrupted, and then God comes and brings it back again with a criterion, and it brings it back here. Every time you try to corrupt it, God brings it back. So in that sense, it's not corruptible. But also there's a celestial scripture, so to speak. Okay, there's the first time it was written down, before it came to be delivered. If you read the Quran carefully, it's talking about that. It makes a reference to that. So everything is written down. Everything is maktub. Everything is written. Maktub means written, okay? And that's a fundamental aspect of the religion of Islam. Anybody who denies that doesn't understand. It's grounds for defector, becoming a defector. Coach Diddy only got 50 months in prison. Do you think that's enough? That's from Salah. Salah, I haven't really followed his case, but I heard he got 4 years, a little bit 4 years. They made it sound like he was going to go to jail forever. They made it sound like he had minors at this party. They made it sound like he was the worst guy in history. They made it sound like he was the devil incarnated, and they released that video from years ago of him beating that girl at the elevator. But that video was old. They're saying, that was 10 years ago. Why are they showing it now? They had it for 10 years. Why did they sit on it for 10 years? I don't get it. It seems like they really wanted to take him down, but at the end, he only got 50 months. Were there minors at the party? If there was, the man should be doing a long haul in jail. I don't know what's going on. Honestly, I haven't looked into it. I'm not that particularly interested, but they made it seem like this guy was never going to see the light of day again, and then he just gets 4 years. Maybe it's true that rich people don't have to fear consequences of the law. Guys, there's no such thing as Islamic dilemma. There's no such thing. If you go into Orientalists, people who study Islam who are not Muslims, it doesn't exist. If somebody thinks it's a real thing, why don't they write a paper on it? Why don't they publish it, and see what scholars are going to say? Scholars are going to say, oh, this person doesn't understand the nuance. They just don't understand the nuance. So the Quran generally affirms the truth of the Bible, but not in detail, never in detail. It criticizes the Bible for being changed, etc. So I could say, look, the Jesus Christ story is true, but not in detail. Christ was the Savior. Christ was the Messiah. He was born to Virgin Mary. Moses is true. Yes, he parted the sea. He beat the Pharaoh. But these little details, they got them wrong. These little things that they say about him, okay, that he did this and that. No, that's exaggerated or was fabricated. And we know that for a fact. We know that the gospel is fabricated because even Christians themselves, look, all you got to do is ask a Christian, is the Bible inerrant? If he says yes, it's inerrant, it has no mistakes, well, then you could point to irrefutable mistakes. And if he says, no, it's not inerrant, well, then you believe what Muslims believe. We believe the Bible is true, but it has errors in it. That's it. No scholar in the history of the world today believes the Bible is inerrant. There's not one. I haven't heard one. And I'm like thinking about like really the most hardcore believing Christians like James White. They also admit the Bible is errant. It has mistakes. And they say it's scribal errors. They say it's copying errors. They have other reasons. And they say, look, the gospel's in here somewhere. There's just some distortion. We got to get through it. And we got to use the critical method to figure out what the gospel is. And it's an ongoing project. And eventually we're going to weed out all the mistakes. And we're going to figure it all out. And we're going to have the gospel as it was originally written. That's their goal. But if you ask them, are you there yet? They're going to be like, no, we're not there yet. We still need more academia, more critical thinking, more research, more studying. We're going to get to it, though. Some of them are very optimistic. Some of them think that's an impossible job. But none of them say, look, I know this is the book of John as it was original autograph. Nobody says that. Okay, nobody says that at all. And nobody says that about the Old Testament. That's for sure. Nobody says, hey, I have a chain of custody from this book all the way to Moses, alayhi salam. Nobody says that. And you can't say, you take the book of Mark, I have a original autograph all the way, a chain of custody all the way to Mark. Nobody says that. So all you got to say is, look, is the gospel or the Bible inerrant? They're going to say, no, it's not inerrant. It has mistakes. Do you believe in the Bible? Yes. Okay, same thing. You're in the same position as Muslim. We believe in the Bible, but it has errors, so we use the Quran as the criterion. As the Quran says, it's the criterion. Coach, who's the hardest hitter you have ever met? That's from Atman. That I ever worked with? That's a good one. That's a good question. Well, I work with Shane Carwin. He was hit like a Mack truck. So I would say Shane Carwin. I've met Ngannou, but I've never worked with Ngannou. Rory McDonald was on Jackson Podcast. Great podcast. You should go on there. In my opinion, a better MMA podcast than... Uh-oh, it skipped. It's a better podcast than JRE Better Guess. That's from Hassan. I've listened to their podcast a little bit. That's pretty cool. Raja got 7 and Diddy got 4. Did Raja get sentenced? Oh my goodness. Let me see this. Raja Jackson sentence. Don't tell me they sentenced already. I didn't hear about it. How's that possible? How could I have not heard of this? No, it doesn't seem to be. He just got arrested not long ago. How long spent in jail if guilty is found, charged, prepared. Oh, okay, no, you're speculating. It's just speculation. He hasn't been convicted yet. So, yeah, I mean, what's worse? I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if all these allegations are true against Diddy. I mean, they're saying he had minors. I have no idea. I have no idea what the evidence looks like. So it could have been all just, lies. But again, I know nothing, so don't take my word for it at all. I'm not familiar about any of the evidence. Hey, Coach, thoughts on Tucker Carlson? Feels like you could truly introduce some Eastern philosophy to this man. That's from Shoryu. I would definitely love to have a conversation with him. He seems to me to be an intelligent guy, so I would definitely have a conversation with him. I like the fact that he's critical and that he's open-minded enough to entertain the other side, to look at both sides. Guys, a truly honest human being can look at both sides of the argument. That's why I find, like, sometimes when you talk to people, they're just trying to get to this conclusion. They don't care how they get to that conclusion. They want to get to that conclusion. Doesn't matter what you tell them. This is where they started from, and this is where they got to end, and there's no debate about it. So they have a confirmation bias. Anything that proves their point, that's what they believe. Anything that disproves their point, I can't hear it. I didn't see it. No, it doesn't make sense. They start becoming super skeptical about any possibility. That's not a rational, honest human being. A rational, honest human being could look at both sides and he could weigh and measure, and he believes that, look, whatever the truth is, it's a good thing. That's really what it is. You got to be, if you want to get to the truth, you got to be humble about it. You got to be, look, the truth is bigger and smarter and greater than I am, and if I want to get to it, I got to be honest. But some people don't really want to get to the truth. They really just want to be here. They want to be at this one thing that they believe their whole life, or they have a dogma, and this dogma makes me feel good, and I like this story it tells me, and I'm loyal to this dogma. A dogma is something when you believe that you don't necessarily have to have good evidence. You believe it no matter what. That's a dogma. Now, people take comfort in their dogmas. It takes a really courageous and brave person to look at the truth, to try to weigh the truth. It's a very difficult thing. Can you react to this video and give your thoughts on what happened? Feel free to skip ahead. The title is B-Team Battle of the Exes Gone Wrong. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Mike Goodwin. Oh, man. You're going to get me in trouble here. All right. Let's see. Hold on a second. Mike Goodwin's going to get my channel canceled. Thanks a lot, Mike. Let's see. B-Team. Okay. Okay, it doesn't say X has gone. Hold on a second. What? B-Team Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. Hold on. Okay, I didn't get that. B-Team Battle. All I'm seeing is challenge matches gone wrong. Nothing about X's. B-Team Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. I typed it in exactly as you put it. No, there's just some grappling matches. Title is B-Team Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. I'm typing it. For some reason, it's not coming up. Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. How about that? Battle. Oh, snap. Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. Nope. Oh, Battle of the X's Gone Wrong. No. Battle of the X's. No, it's some reality show. Sorry, my man. I can't find your video. Apologies. I typed it in the chat again. You missed it. Where is it? Type it again, Mike. Mike, type it again. Battle of the sexes. Man, why don't you write sexes then? Why don't you write sexes? Now I gotta go write this again. B team. Battle of the sexes gone wrong. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, it's still challenge matches gone wrong. Nope. You're talking about the girl who broke a guy's leg. That was one of my students, actually. He got his leg broken, his ACL broken, but he was kind of going easy with her. You know, you're wrestling a girl. What do you want to do? Grab her and beat her up? You're going to look like an idiot. And if you kind of go easy on her, she might break your leg. And that's what happened, you know. Okay, no problem, Mike. Thank you. I understand. You should do is put S space. You know, like just kind of like, yeah, but I got you. I got you. You're right. It does edit you. You're 100% right. So thank you, Mike. Landos 1995, new member. Hello, welcome, my friend. Welcome to the show. Coach, can you talk about man-made underwear and your experience so far with it? That's from Talal. I love the underwear, guys. I'm not gonna talk your ears about it too much because I know I've done it in the past, but it's the world's most comfortable underwear. It's premium, high-quality underwear. I'm working with this company now. I love the guys. I love the founders. They're really, really cool guys. And let me tell you something. It's like people who wear their merchandise absolutely love it. Like they're just crazy about the merchandise. I got to tell you, man, they made an incredible product and their story is incredible. They're just 4 guys who got together and like, let's make the perfect pair of underwear. And they made like, I think it was like 37 renditions of an underwear. So they would sell underwear, get feedback from the customer, redo it, get feedback from the customer. And they just kept building the perfect pair of underwear. And let me tell you something, they really did. They really built something special. Button pushing skills have gone down, Coach. That's from Salah. How so? Oh, because I couldn't find the video? Please, man. It's not coming up for some reason. Do high repetition exercises like doing hundreds of push-ups and squats and pull-ups or dips have any benefit for MMA? That's from Dr. Phil Eyebrows. Yes. Dr. Phil's Eyebrows. Yes. Of course. It'll increase your work capacity. It'll increase your ability to fight longer. And you'll be stronger. So, no, definitely. Calisthenics, bodyweight exercises, definitely. 100%. Genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Do you agree with this, Coach? And to what extent? For example, when it comes to intelligence. Well, the genes load the gun. Now we have something called epigenetics. So you're right. Okay, so you have genetics, and now we look at it as epigenetics. So genetics, think about like epigenetics is, imagine you're in an amazing kitchen, and the kitchen has all these ingredients, and you're gonna make a cake, okay? But in this kitchen, you have flour, you have eggs, you have milk, you have sugar, you have all those things. But you also have fruit, and you have vegetables, and you have, I don't know, what else is there in the kitchen? Like you have olives, and you have like, I don't know, you have like all sorts of like spices. And you're like, look, I'm making a cake. I don't need the olives. I don't need the celery. I don't need those carrots. You're not making carrot cake, okay? So epigenetics is like, look, you have all these genetics, but your environment's going to select what ingredients you're going to use to create this human being. That's epigenetics, okay? So 100 years ago, it was genetics. Now it's epigenetics. And who decides which ingredients you're going to use? So you have all these genetics. Which one are going to get triggered or activated, let's say? Well, that's the environment. The environment's going to stimulate the process to choose according to the environment, which ingredients get selected to create this human being. So your environment has a major role in how your body developed. So yes, that's still in the realm of determinism. That has nothing to do with the realm of free will. Now, how do we know we have free will? Because the fact that we can use reason. So here's the thing. If we're perfectly determined, you cannot have reason. Think about it. For me to be a rational thinker, for me to reason, I'd have to be free. I'd have to be able to judge and weigh evidence. But how could I judge and weigh evidence if I'm just a machine who's being moved around and compelled to answer a certain way because of my genetics and environment? That's it. My genetics, my environment, that's what makes me, like you said. But think about it. Me and you are having a rational discussion. Every word I'm saying is determined according to you. If there's no free will, our conversation is a byproduct of random events coming to light. So we'd be the universe having a conversation with itself, which is absurd. Makes no sense. How could everything fit so perfectly? And now we're the universe talking about God. Think about that. How could we be a universe talking about God if we're truly a byproduct of random forces? How could that be? You have to take your worldview all the way to the end, to the finish line. Keep going. If it is true that we're determined, then every single movement and word we say or think is predetermined. It's compelled upon us. It's forced upon us. But me and you are having a dialogue. We're like doing a dance. We're talking. We're rationalizing. We're thinking. So that's why we know we're free. When we observe the world, we see that the world is compelled. It's not free. It's determined. But then when we think in our heads, our mind, we realize that we are free. So there's two realms here. There's the realm of the mind. Think about it. The realm of the mind is not the brain. The brain is the machine. The mind is the other. The mind, you can't weigh the mind, but you can weigh the brain. The mind you cannot grasp, but you can grasp a brain. You could see a brain, you can't see a mind. You can only experience a mind. You have a first-person experience of the mind. So the mind is in a realm of free. It's not compelled by the laws of motion. Because don't forget, guys, with the 3 laws of motion, we can explain how everything moves in the universe, even how my hand moves. When my hand moves from left to right like this, you could explain this hand-waving motion that I'm doing right now by the 3 laws of motion. There's some chemicals in my brain that were triggered by other chemicals, by other environmental factors that existed long before I ever existed. And if you had a perfect calculator and perfect knowledge of where every elementary particle is and how every chemical reaction reacts, you could have predicted that in the year 2025, Coach Zahabi is going to be sitting in his chair, doing a podcast and waving his hand left and right. If you had all that information and you can compute it all, if you could compute it all, you would know that my hand's going to wave exactly at this time and this many revolutions. But that's why we say the mind is somewhere else. The mind is outside the causal chain. Because we don't observe the mind in the causal chain. Yet we know we have a mind because we're having a first-person experience of the mind. What is this video, guys? What is this video? B-team battle. Okay, I misspelled one word here. I typoed. Maybe it'll come up now. I put an S instead of an A by accident. Let's see. Battle of the sexes. Oh, boy. Here we go. What monstrosity is there now? Okay, yeah, no, this is it. Battle of the sexes gone wrong. No, I know exactly this video. It's one of my students. He got his leg broken by a girl at B-team. They were kind of horsing around, and he was wrestling with a girl. He didn't want to, like, beat her up on camera or, like, go hard on. He's a very accomplished grappler, guys. He won the ADCC trials in Montreal. Advanced division. He won it recently, the last one. He's a very good grappler. He's an excellent grappler. He's very dedicated. Now, he wins every tournament I put him in. Like he wins like 7 out of 9 matches by submission. Like he's a very good grappler. However, he was rolling with a girl. What do you want him to do? Like crush her, choke her out on camera? He's gonna look like an idiot. So he was kind of going friendly, light, and she jumped on his leg and clack clack. And I saw the video and I wasn't happy with it. I think she's a very accomplished grappler, but when you're doing leg locks, guys, you never go 0 to 100 in the practice room. Never. That's just crazy. So I thought it was like a girl wanting to prove and a guy trying to be nice and just clack, broke her knee. Like if I was the trainer in the practice room, I would be really upset because I never let my students do that to each other. I think that's crazy. That is crazy. If you're in the practice room and you break somebody's leg, it's your fault. I don't care what the circumstances is. You should never break somebody's leg. Landos 1995. Salam alaikum, coach. I just became a member and I'm honored. Can you please give advice on how to stay positive during such trying times for the Ummah. That's from Londos. I suggest you're talking about, I assume, of course, you're talking about Palestine, guys. Right now in Palestine, there's a genocide going on. Every day we turn on the internet, we see children dying, bombs falling, and people making excuses for it. Now it's officially being called a genocide. The majority of genocide scholars are giving a consensus now that it is a genocide. It's indeed a genocide. I think 4 or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people are going to be saying, how could people have let that happen? How come people weren't speaking out? And a lot of people who made a lot of stupid comments online are going to look ridiculous. Netanyahu is actually coming out and bragging that he's going to be paying up to $7,000 a post for people to whitewash his genocide. He's like trying to bring in all the influencers. He's like, we're going to pay you guys. Do you think anybody's paying me $7,000 right now to say, hey, there's a genocide going on? Guys, I would never take money for such a thing. If something is true, you don't need to pay me to say it. You need to pay somebody to lie. Why would you have to pay me $7,000? First of all, guys, I would never take money for a lie. Never. I don't know how people can live with themselves. Oh, you'll pay me and I'll whitewash this genocide for you. Like, people are sick, man. People are disgusting. Like, I can't believe there's human beings out there like that. I couldn't fathom doing something like this. It makes me sick. Like, honestly. Makes me sick. People are like this. It's just pathetic. I can't even say that they're human. They're just, there's something wrong with them. There's just something so wrong with them. And it's crazy. Like, Netanyahu is such a snake. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. Oh yeah, we're going to bring influencers now and we're going to promote and we're going to pay and we're going to fight the war on the line. And yeah, we're going to force the sale of TikTok. It's supposed to be freedom of speech, democracy for all, people, the power to the people. That's the biggest lie I've ever heard. There's no power to the people. People around the world are protesting. They're telling you we don't want this. And the governments force it. I just saw today on the news a German police punch a girl, a protester for Palestine. A police officer punch a girl, hit her, knock it down, then walk away. He's like looking over his shoulder, hoping nobody saw him. I was like, dude, you're a man punching a young woman, like a really young girl. Like maybe she was like 17, 18, and he's punched. He went up to her and he punched her, man. A full gear, riot gear. Like, what are you scared of, man? You're in full riot gear. She's a young woman. He went up and he punched her. Guys, if I was there, I can't tell you, I know what I would do. I would probably lose it. Seeing a man in full riot gear punch a woman, I can't tell you what I think I would do, but because, you know, we're in the universe and there's algorithms and there's things, you know, I don't know what I would do. I've seen so much cowardice, so much evil. And now the fact that they're bragging about, hey, we're going to buy TikTok and we're going to sanitize it. What happened to free speech? What happened to all that? What happened to you guys are all about free speech, free speech, free speech. Oh, no, you're talking about us? You're exposing our hypocrisy and our evil ways. No more free speech. Let's sanitize. Guys, TikTok is dead to me. Not that I was big on TikTok or anything like that. It's garbage. It's bought and paid for. And Netanyahu actually was like, well, you know, number one is TikTok and number two is X. So we got to call Elon Musk and we got to talk to him. So we're going to go tell Elon now to fiddle with the algorithm so that our worldview is pushed on everybody. That's insane, man. The guy's insane. You're talking to Americans. Americans are supposed to be free people. You're telling them basically we're going to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's going to help us out. All these people's opinions that we don't like, they're Americans. We're going to edit, squash, wipe out, dismiss. Like, what are you talking about, man? America's First Amendment is freedom of speech. They have the right to speak up, especially about a foreign government. Could you imagine that? Where is the world going to? Where? It's mind-bogglingly scary. And I can't wait till America wakes up. And you have to pay somebody $7,000 a post, up to $7,000 a post. It's because they don't see the eye to eye with you. They don't really believe what they're saying. They got to be paid to do it. And I looked at the pictures of all the influencers. I couldn't recognize anybody except one. And I've seen her on the Piers Morgan show. I don't know her name, but She's some blonde girl. She's a vegan, but she's pro-genocide. I love this. This is like, you can't write a better story than this. Like, it's just it's so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. She's a vegan, but she's giving excuses for genocide. It's disgusting. It's really just pure disgust. Like you were saying, you want to keep an optimistic view. Let me tell you something, okay? Let me just say something. It's a matter of time before the Palestinians get their freedom. So it's going to be a great day. It's a matter of time. I don't see them ever disappearing. And the Arab world will never let up. The Muslim world, the whole Ummah, and the Western world are eventually going to get together. I'm telling you, it's a matter of time. Now, I don't wish ill on Jewish people at all. Of course not. I hope there's going to be security and coexistence and right of return for everybody. Coexistence and human rights for all. Not for a select few. Not for a certain group. Not for one group to terrorize another. No. Neither group, okay? Coexistence, like we live here in Canada, like we live in the US. We have coexistence rights for everybody. It doesn't matter where you're from. You have the right to property. You have the right to you have human rights. You have all these privileges that every human being should have anywhere around the world at all times. So there's no group that should be stripped or desecrated or crushed, okay? And I really think we're going to see it hopefully in our lifetime. Inshallah. Hey, coach, I'm underweight. I want to gain weight, but my appetite just fails me every day. Advice on gaining weight. That's from NYX. Well, that's not a very typical question, but I will tell you, try to find interesting ways to add calories to your diet. So try and find highly caloric foods that are not very satiating. Okay, so now you want to go to like starchy white bread, like croissants, like the food I tell you guys don't eat, but it's because it's the least nutritious, the least satiating, and the most packed in calories. It's literally the worst food. So if you look at the satiety index, the croissants at the bottom of the list. If you look at the nutritional index, croissants at the bottom of the list. So you'd want to hit those foods a little bit harder and try to sneak them in here and there because it's going to add calories. And if they spike your insulin, it's also going to help you grow. Okay, so insulin helps your fat cells grow, but also helps your muscle cells grow. So if you want to grow in muscle and you're not gaining fat, so you're one of those people who doesn't put on fat, you'd want to spike your insulin. Hey, coach, I'd love to see you on the Pierce Morgan show. That's from Show Rio. I would love to go on this Pierce Morgan show. Definitely. Become Prime Minister, coach. That's from Adam. Inshallah, one day, man. Inshallah. Who knows, man? Hey, if a drama teacher can make it, a drama teacher made it. Why not me? Justin Trudeau was a drama teacher. Then he became the Prime Minister of Canada. He used to train in my gym, actually. In the foundation, yes, all men are equal. Okay, well, that's nice to hear, CXK, but that was a question I asked a while ago. All right, guys, what time is it now? Ooh, 12:30 a.m. All right, guys, time for me to turn in. Give me a fun, easy question. Come on, guys, don't make me take an hour to sign off. Give me something light, cool, and funny. Okay, guys, I want something funny. Light or funny? Coach, what do you call an angry ant? Question mark. A croissant. I don't get it. It's horrible. Oh, a croissant. A croissant. That was really bad. Really bad. Come on, man. You can give me a better joke than that. "15 Ronda Rouseys versus 1 Rabbit and Ngannou." That's from Yassine. I would go with it. 1 Rabbit and Ngannou. He'd be dropping them like flies. Pink, 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 pink. He'd just be like, he would knock them out with the jab, man. It would just be devastating. Okay, guys, I need something funny. Guys, something light and funny, friends. Come on, guys. You know, I like to sign off with something funny and light. Are white belts the most dangerous to roll with? That's from Ant-Man. Usually, yes, because they hit you in the balls, they scratch your eye, like they don't know what to do, so they like do something spastic. It's quite scary. Man, you guys have no personality in the chat room. What's going on with you guys? I'm going to make everybody... How many people in the chat room? Hold on a second. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. Views. Currently 250 viewers. Everybody's going to sleep. Everybody's asleep. Okay, so I want 250 people out there doing push-ups. How about that? What's this money thing signing for? What do you think of the Kill Tony comedy podcast? I haven't watched it. Salam, coach. Here's something funny. Imagine Kamzat is on the White House card and is yelling Allahu Akbar backstage prior to his entrance. The irony. Landos. I don't know if they'll allow him near the White House. That would be hilarious. But I doubt they would put him on the White House card, to be honest with you. Eesh. I doubt he would get that close. I don't know, man. They're going to be like, oh, if he wins, he's going to give a speech. We're going to lose control of the mic. I don't know. What do you think of Mikey's BJJ style? That's from K. Dot. I love it. I love Mikey's BJJ style. I'm a big fan of his. I love the way he does bear traps and stuff like that. I'm a big player of bear traps. I love bear trap. You know, I love it. Coach, do pistol squats? That's from Daniel Quinn. Yes, I do. I used to do them a lot more often back in the day, but they're very, very good. All right, guys, I'm going to have to sign off without a funny joke. Lose your index finger or all your BJJ knowledge. That's from Kirby. I'll be kissing this finger goodbye, Kirby. Okay? Let me tell you something. This finger is very precious. Of course, all your fingers are. But if I had to lose one finger or all my BJJ knowledge, I'd rather lose the finger. Guys, I got to tell you, man, it took too many years, too many hours, too much time. I would part with the finger. I'll be like, just take it, man. I'm not giving up all those years. But that's a good question. I got to give it to you. Okay, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you all in the next episode. Don't forget, like, share, comment, subscribe, and use promo code FALL50OFF and get 50% off anything on Jiu-Jitsu Club. Thank you.